Welcome to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. We bring you 2 daily uploads, ensuring you never miss a moment of the action. Stay tuned, subscribe, and let's dive into today's story. 476. So this is what Mr. Liu said about doing well. 4. After learning the truth, Bu was escorted into the spaceship by the guards of Black Dragon Mountain. What is the 10th level leader of the Ministry of Resources? What public officials? In the eyes of these big figures who can cause earthquakes in the starry sky by stomping their feet, Bu is just an insignificant little character. Then there were only Azure Star and the rather bewildered 9th level Martial Saints left. Several star counts glanced at them. Find someone to ask them, what exactly has this guy been doing on this planet during this time? We will have a better idea when we meet the immortal Earl in the future. Earl White Sparrow said. The others all nodded in agreement. They came here to save the field this time, who knows if they came in time. If the guy from the resources department, besides enriching his own pockets, did something harmful to the sky on the blue planet, which would further anger the immortal Earl, they should be mentally prepared and think about how to make up for it. Forget it, I'll go. Wearing a black gold robe, Luo Feng, the Earl of Black Dragon Mountain with black hair and black eyes, thought about it, and said lightly. Several other people have no opinion. Luo Feng took a step forward, and appeared in front of Lin Zhenjiu and the others the next moment. Luo Feng, the Earl of Black Dragon Mountain, is not tall in the starry sky, only 1.85 meters. He was half a head shorter than Lin Zhenjiu. But he was standing in front of a group of Azure Star 9th rank Martial Saints, who felt like ants looking up at the sky. Even if the 12th level Starry Sky powerhouse reveals a little breath inadvertently, it is enough to make their bodies and souls tremble endlessly. Luo Feng stood in front of a few people with his hands behind his back, asking lightly. Lin Zhenjiu and others answered honestly, without any details, even the matter that Lin Zhenjiu was pinched by Bu just now. After listening, Luo Feng thought for a while and took out a tube of purple gold misty potion from under the black robe, and threw it into Lin Zhenmu's arms. I don't have medicine below 11th level on me, so I'll give you this 11th level healing medicine. Take a drop after you go back, dilute it by 100 million times, and take it. Your strength is one step closer. Level 11. Lin Zhenjiu shuddered violently when she heard this, and almost dropped the purple gold potion in her arms. Hurry up and hold it firmly, holding it carefully, as if holding a planet that will melt at any time. Thank you for your concern, sir. Lin Zhenjiu hurriedly handed the potion back to Luo's cover, and said in awe, but, it's really too precious. It's just that my soul has been slightly shaken, and I can just go back and cultivate for a while. Obediently, a level 11 healing potion. Grade 11. Lin Zhenjiu didn't even know that there was an 11th level in martial arts, let alone a level 1 treasure potion. This little bottle of potion. Maybe it is more expensive than the blue star under his feet. At this time, Lin Zhenjiu had a little understanding of the levels of these big shots in front of him. What I bring with me are level 11 potion resources, so my own strength. At least level 11, maybe even level 12. Grade 12. Lin Zhenjiu didn't dare to think about it, it was already too much beyond his cognition. The things Luo Feng sent out, so far there is no reason to take them back. Luo Feng, Earl of Black Dragon Mountain, looked at Lin Zhenjiu in front of him and said calmly. Then, thank you, my lord. Lin Zhenjiu quickly took it back and thanked him respectfully. The rest of the 9th level Martial Saints of Azure Star secretly looked at Lin Zhenjiu, with fanatical envy that couldn't be concealed. Level 11 potion. Although it is a healing potion, Luo Feng also said it himself. Taking a drop of this potion and diluting it 100 million times will increase Zhenjiu's strength. Damn, that's outrageous. Think about the bitter days when they worked so hard to accumulate energy crystals and exchange them for some 10th level leftovers from the guide. Eyeballs are turning red with envy. And this bottle of 11th level healing potion also let all the Blue Star 9th level martial saints know exactly what level of boss Luo Feng is in front of them. It's the kind of super boss who can smash their entire Azure Star by slipping something casually between their fingers. No wonder the 10th level guides are like ants in their eyes, and they are settled by moving their little fingers. At this time, all the Blue Star 9th level martial saints heard Luo Feng say again, "Don't have any psychological burden. We are here to rescue the immortal Earl this time. You are all well, we have a good explanation for the immortal Earl." Lin Zhenjiahu's eyes flickered, she hesitated for a long time, and finally plucked up the courage to ask Luo Feng, "I want to ask my lord, the one you have been mentioning repeatedly. Immortal Earl? Who the hell is it?" When Lin Zhenjiahu asked this sentence, all the 9-level Azure Star martial saints behind him also raised their heads and pricked up their ears. His face was full of curiosity. Yet, keep hearing these big guys talk about Immortal Earl, Immortal Earl. The key is, who is this Immortal Earl? How could he have such a great face and energy to attract so many top stars in the starry sky to gather in Azure Star? Just to deal with a small 10th level guide. So far, only one of them in Azure Star has stepped out of the planet and walked towards the starry sky. And that person? The identity of the Immortal Earl. Luo Feng, with black hair and black pupils, blinked, then laughed at himself and said, "That's right, I forgot that you didn't know." After speaking, Luo Feng straightened his expression slightly, and said word by word, "Earl Immortal is Liu Sheng, who walked out of your Blue Star. He seems to be called the military god on your Azure planet. Earl Liu possesses the most powerful immortal level extraordinary life physique in the history of the sub-Jupiter region of the White Mist Star region. Therefore, he was conferred the title of Earl by the Yamua Star Federation, named Immortal." Luo Feng said indifferently, but when Lin Zhenjiahu and the others heard the word Liu Sheng, their heads buzzed and they completely fell into a blank state. Liu Sheng? Really, Liu Sheng? It has only been a few months since Liu Sheng, Li Mo's, opened the Azure Star. In the blink of an eye, he became the top big shot in the starry sky. The most powerful talent ever. The first day of a million years. Star count. These words kept circling in the minds of Lin Zhenjiahu and the others, rampaging, knocking them all dizzy, almost unable to stand still. Especially Lin Zhenjiahu, his mind was full of the words that Dong Qingxiu said to him earlier, "Alter." Liu Sheng said that he is doing well in the starry sky now, and should be able to solve this trouble. Liu Sheng said he was doing well. Well done. Not bad. Good guy, so this is what Mr. Liu said about doing well. Lin Zhenjiahu was in a trance, clutching the 11th level purple gold potion, muttering in her mouth. All of a sudden, there are mixed feelings in my heart, and the turbulent waves continue to rise. 477 Northern Suanwu True Water Flow, 250,000 meters of Dharma Body, 20,000 Immortals, 1. The complex and mysterious golden lines protrude from the flesh and blood like the roots of the sacred tree. It is also like an innate totem, with an ancient and mysterious atmosphere. Carrying this weight, 5 fingers clenched into a fist, and punched out a shattering punch. Kika. The void quickly collapsed. A shattered black hole appeared, continued to collapse in an instant, and then shattered a second time. White and black fine starbursts are intertwined, and the third layer of void presents cracks. The cracks increase to the limit, it seems to break through the limit of the third layer. But after all, it was still a little bit worse. But the destructive power caused by this punch is also terrifying enough. The power compressed to the extreme seems to be giving birth to a thriving roommate. With a punch, the void was blasted into a rag sack. The person who bears the mighty power of this punch will be directly and gradually weathered from the hands. He passed away without a sound, and his whole body was like sand blown away by a strong wind. Billowing black smoke melted into Liu Sheng's body. Liu Sheng's eyes flickered, and the Dharma body came freely. When he first descended on this planet, his Dharma body was 160,000 meters long. After cleaning the entire surface of the planet, the Faxiang body reaches 180,000 meters. Now, the Faxiang body skyrocketed again, and soon broke through to 190,000 meters, 200,000 meters. It has been growing to a full 987 full 250,000 meters. Only then stopped. The same level of martial arts inheritance, how can it increase so much compared to the previous martial arts inherited from Shalusi? Liu Sheng was surprised, thought for a while, thoughtfully. Is it the result of completing another cornerstone of martial arts? This seems to be the only explanation. In that case, when I fill in the last cornerstone of the martial arts of the land, the Dharma aspect body will usher in a surge. Liu Sheng has come all the way to the present, and he has some ideas about the structure of Shiquan martial arts he created. Based on the ground, wind, water, and fire, plus a god crystal, gold, the 5 ways are the cornerstones. The rest of the derivative ways are like gravel and sand, filling the gaps between the 5 kinds of ways. In the end, it was built into Shiquan Mudeo. It is somewhat similar to the way of the 4 poles of the mentor, but it is more reasonable and perfect than the way of the 4 poles. Of course Liu Sheng thinks. Whether it is more reasonable and perfect than the way of 4 poles, he has to go down to know. Liu Sheng didn't panic either. If after practicing, he finds that the way of the 4 poles is still more important, he can just pull in the framework of the way of the 4 poles and get into it. Anyway, the inheritance of Taoism from his teacher Yang Yizhu is in his mind. The inheritance memory I just obtained has made my palm technique reach the 5th level. Liu Sheng did the math, and found that he now mastered quite a lot of 5-level rules in martial arts. Fist, knife, spear, axe, body, palm. There are 6 kinds. Among them, boxing and saber techniques are at the peak of the 5 realms, and the remaining 4 are close to the peak of the 5 realms. It's an exaggeration. If you say it, I'm afraid it will scare a bunch of people to death. One must know that Liu Sheng is only in his early 20s now. The strength of the martial body can be explained by the immortal level extraordinary life physique, but the mastery of martial arts skills cannot be easily achieved simply by talent. Even if your innate understanding is tens of thousands of times that of ordinary people, you can't do this without spending time practicing and pondering. Think about the powerhouses above 11th level that he knows now, which age is not over 1,000 years old, thousands of years old? Compared with them, Liu Sheng is nothing short of awesome. Of course, he was cheating. The newly inherited 12th level water martial art and the cold halberd prison spear will be merged together, as the cornerstone of my water martial arts, and I will give it a new name. Liu Sheng thought for a while and decided, just go to the northern Suanmu Zhen Shui. Just pick a name, let's use it for now. The matter of naming is mainly based on inspiration, and it is not easy to choose a resounding name. Up to now, Liu Sheng's proudest work in the name is the only one in the universe, the sky, the earth, the only star, the supreme body. Others. Not so much. Northern Suanmu true water flow transformed into a majestic and flexible turtle pattern, which landed on the side neck of Liu Sheng's 250,000 meter body, like a tattoo. Whether it is Xianfeng Kinky Annihilation Light Flow or Northern Suanmu True Water Flow. At present, it is just an outline, not even a prototype. Liu Sheng didn't, figure out the essence of it at all. He just reserved a place for them temporarily, and then slowly delved into it later. So whether it's the black snake earrings or the little turtle tattoo, it can only be said to be superficial. Compared with the way of stars and the way of divine crystal, it is far, far worse. The last martial art of the earth, let's go next time. After harvesting the 2 planets, my other martial arts have also increased a lot. Liu Sheng suddenly discovered that, unknowingly, around his Dharma body, there were many more stars representing those miscellaneous martial arts. Originally, the stars were scattered as a curtain, but now these martial arts stars are densely formed into sand. It was like a gorgeous galaxy surrounding Liu Sheng's Dharma body. It swings with his gestures, just like the top special effects on the Krypton Gold boss in online games. With a slight movement of Liu Sheng's mind, the galaxy surged towards his fist spontaneously. There are many ideas bursting out of Liu Sheng's mind, and he is about to grab something. After Fei Shengxiangdi, the second martial arts supernatural power, I have an idea. The golden crow fluttered its wings in Liu Sheng's eyes, the light was shining brightly, and he was quite excited. Just when he was about to use these inspirations to create this supernatural power in one go, his expression suddenly changed, and he withdrew most of his mental power from the dream space. Arriving at the target location, arriving at the target location. Just after leaving the dream space, I heard a reminder from the spaceship intelligence. Liu Sheng took a look, and there is still half a day to go to the blue sky. Time flies so fast. The 10-day journey in the starry sky seemed to be over at once. During these 10 days, Liu Sheng never stopped practicing in reality. In the training room at this time, the simulated gravity has been adjusted to 30,000 times by Liu Sheng. And in his body, nearly 20,000 immortal cells are burning quietly. During these 10 days, the number of immortal cells has increased by almost a full 10,000. This is the benefit brought by the double blessing of the top-level cultivation environment and top-level cultivation resources. It won't be long before I reach the limit of level 9. A sense of enlightenment rose in Liu Sheng's heart. The Star Supreme Body, the limit of level 9 should be 36,500 immortals. He is still more than 16,000 immortals away from this limit. After reaching the limit, if you collect the 5 cornerstones, you will be able to reach the 10th level. At the 10th level, the strength can skyrocket again. Maybe I don't need to reach the 10th level at all, I can reach the limit of the 9th level and break the limit 3 times. Liu Sheng is now not far behind the 3rd limit breaking combat power, and may break through at any time. Liu Sheng is quite satisfied with the result of this practice. Then there is the trouble that Wei Langxing encountered. Dong Qingxiu sent a message a few days ago, saying that it has been perfectly resolved. Moreover, it is said that there was a lot of commotion. What is the specific dafa? Dong Qingxiu said vaguely in the communicator. Anyway, he will know when he comes back. There's a lot of movement. No matter how big it is, how big can it be? Liu Sheng found it funny. After half a day, he couldn't laugh anymore. Looking at the blue star that was close at hand, Liu Sheng opened his mouth slightly and his eyes were a little dull. Damn, this movement is too loud. 478 The era of 10 billion gene optimization fluids, covering the whole world, and everyone like AD. I saw that the entire Azure Star was surrounded by dozens of huge spaceships. The smallest of these spaceships is larger than the silver bird he was on, dozens of times larger than the White Hole shuttle. Although the quality of a spaceship is not measured solely by its size, the cost of a spaceship that can catch up to a fraction of the size of a planet is obviously not low. From Liu Sheng's point of view, the blue star surrounded by dozens of large spaceships looks like a thin and pitiful little one. Huddled among a group of big men, trembling. Dunlop has found someone for me, come to help. Liu Sheng murmured, and then realized that he didn't seem to even have a parking space. The positions around the entire Azure Star were crowded, and the White Hole shuttlers couldn't fly in at all. Just when Liu Sheng was feeling worried, the voice of artificial intelligence sounded on the spaceship. There is a safety signal requesting access, do you accept it? Liu Sheng said yes. Soon, a sound came from the spaceship's loudspeaker. Is this the Earl Immortal? Immortal Earl? Liu Sheng frowned slightly, thought for a while, and said in a deep voice, I'm Liu Sheng. Welcome the Immortal Earl to return to his home planet. After speaking, the signal was cut off. Immediately afterwards, many super-large spaceships around the blue star began to move slowly. Make way for an unimpeded passage in the direction pointed by the bow of the White Hole shuttle. Dozens of spaceships lined up on both sides, like a guard of honor, silently welcoming Liu Sheng's return. Liu Sheng controlled the white hole shuttle to pass through the atmosphere and slowly descend to the surface of the blue star. He saw a long red carpet, and on both sides of the carpet were neatly lined up guards of honor, and some familiar or unfamiliar people stood at the end of the guard of honor, staring at him intently. When he came out of the white hole shuttle, those members of the guard of honor who were generally above the 10th level raised their weapons in unison, and the solemn atmosphere even slightly shocked Liu Sheng. What a big show! Even though he knew that these individuals were greeting him specially, Liu Sheng couldn't help sighing in his heart. A group of people at the end of the guard of honor took the initiative to meet him. Level 12, Level 12, Level 12, Level 1. Liu Sheng's eyes swept across these people, and his eyes flickered from time to time. He also saw Dong Qingxiu, Lin Zhenjiu, and others, as well as a group of Azure Star Martial Saints. Most of the latter's faces were in a trance, as if they were living in a dream. Luo Feng from the Black Dragon Mountain family in the White Mist Star District, I have met His Excellency the Immortal Earl. A young man with an ordinary figure but an extraordinary imposing manner, wearing a black gold robe, stepped forward, smiled and extended his hand to Liu Sheng. The White Sparrow family. Gardener Star Demon Lion family. Later people also greeted Liu Sheng one by one. The lowest status among these people is also the Viscount. Liu Sheng originally thought that they were all nobles from the White Mist Star region, but he never thought that some of them were from the Sub-Jupiter Star region. It is said that the territory happens to be relatively close to Azure Star, so it is very convenient to come here. But God knows whether it's real convenience or fake convenience. It is said that there are still people on their way. How many people did Dunlop notify? Astonished and helpless, Liu Sheng wanted to help his forehead. He now knows how powerful Dunlop is. This is still the result of transfer across star regions. What if it is in the Sub-Jupiter Star region? I'm afraid I have to send an entire Star Destroyer fleet to surround the Azure Star cluster. It's almost there now. Liu Sheng suddenly felt a little sympathetic to the 10th level leader who caused all the incidents. I guess I didn't expect to kill that guy, but I just secretly sucked a mouthful of blood, and was targeted by dozens of cannons at the same time. Thank you for coming all the way to help my home planet. Liu Sheng has known these people before, and thanked them sincerely. Earl Immortal, you are being polite. How can you say that Earl Immortal is half of our White Mist Star region? Such a small matter is nothing to worry about. A middle-aged man with handsome appearance and elegant temperament said to Liu Sheng with a smile. What Earl White Sparrow said is true. Besides, this kind of Federation moth who uses power for personal gain and deceives the top and bottom, everyone has to punish him. Don't say that he messed with the home planet of the Immortal Earl without knowing his life, even if he entrapped another planet. I am equally obliged to wait. This person who speaks better than he sings is a big shot in the Gardener Star Demon Lion family. The rest of the people immediately expressed strong condemnation of Bu's behavior. I don't know if Bu, who was imprisoned in the Black Dragon Mountain family, would be happy or unhappy if he knew that his name could be mentioned repeatedly by so many Starry Sky bosses in G. Although I know that these people are all here for the purpose of establishing a relationship with me and aiming at my immortal level extraordinary life physique. But it really helped Liu Sheng, and Liu Sheng was polite to them, and even said that. Zero looking for flowers. If you don't dislike it, you can stay here for a longer period of time. I will thank you for your great help. When Liu Sheng said this, Luo Feng of Heilong immediately nodded and agreed. It just so happens that the 10 billion basic gene optimization fluids I ordered for the home planet of the Immortal Earl will take some time to arrive. I just have the cheek to bother you for a few more days, and I can rest assured that the things have been delivered and confirmed to be correct. Basic genetic optimization solution. Liu Sheng blinked, a little dazed. Luo Feng nodded, glanced around, and said with a faint smile, the Earl of Immortal will soon be granted the Starry Sky territory. Compatriots on the home planet can be used as the first batch of citizens to help you cultivate the elite backbone of the future governance of the territory. It's just that the strength is a little weak. 0. So I thought, and simply ordered a batch of genetic optimization fluid. Although it is not a good thing, it can also raise the upper limit of the potential of any ordinary person without martial arts foundation to the height of the theoretical 7th level. Hiss. Before Luo Feng could finish his sentence, the group of martial saints from Azure Star who were standing behind them gasped. Can the upper limit of the potential of ordinary people who have no martial arts foundation be raised to the 7th level of martial arts? Good guy, is this the rhythm of cultivating the entire Azure Star people into 7th level Grandmasters? Although it is only in theory, it is not difficult to imagine that once what Luo Feng, the Earl of Black Dragon Mountain, said, the entire human race on Azure Planet will accept this batch of genetic optimization and transformation. Before long, Azure Star will completely usher in an era where everyone looks like a dragon. All the Azure Star martial saints looked at each other with shock in their eyes. Only at this moment did they truly feel the heavy weight represented by the words advanced civilization. Although Liu Sheng is not as ignorant as Lin Zhenjiu and others, there are even a lot of similar transformation potion formulas in the dream space, and he has given a lot to the high-level officials of the Dragon Kingdom and the military. But he was still shocked by Luo Feng, the Earl of Black Dragon Mountain, who was so generous. It's not like he didn't have a plan to transform human beings around the world. But suffering from lack of money, he could only adopt the method of letting Wulangxing independently develop it step by step. Luo Feng is doing well now. Give him one step directly. Well. It is indeed a top-level starry sky noble family that leads tens of thousands of resource planets. 10 billion bottles of genetic optimization solution, is too rich. 27. Liu Sheng sighed deeply in his heart. 479 martial gods on earth, chickens and dogs ascend to heaven. 3. Earl Lu Feng is right. Earl Immortal will entrust the territory in the future, and he will definitely take away all the compatriots from the mother planet. At this time, Earl Baikhoa also smiled and said, the left and right need to be arranged, why don't I save the Immortal Earl a little trouble and send Immortal Earl 1,000 explorer spaceships? Another great gift. Liu Sheng blinked. He is not a novice who has just entered the starry sky, and he has a certain understanding of the division of spaceships. Traveling in the urban area is generally used as a means of transportation, and the pedestrian series of aircraft that are similar to the main star area for rent. The price of the Pacer series of aircraft is the lowest, although there are some expensive ones, but no matter how expensive they are not as expensive as spaceships. From the Pacer series up is the Adventurer series of spaceships. It is also the most civilian and cheapest type of spaceship. From Adventurer is the Explorer series. And the Explorer August 13th series goes up, it is the Shuttler series. Just like Liu Sheng's White Hole Shuttle, it is a top-level spaceship, which is equivalent to a super luxury car in a car. Generally speaking, according to the suffix of the spaceship name, the price of the spaceship can be intuitively distinguished at a glance. Although the Explorer series of spaceships are only positioned as mid to high-end, they are not affordable by ordinary people. Count White Sparrow made a move with 1,000 Explorer spaceships. Compared with the handwriting of Luo Feng, Earl of Black Dragon Mountain, it is not inferior. Before Liu Sheng had time to make a statement, the Earls of Starry Sky nearby had already spoken. I will send the 10th team of high-level magic silver guards to the home star of the Immortal Earl to prevent star robbers. Then I'll give you 1,000,000 battle suits. These Starry Sky nobles sent resources, equipment and energy crystals one by one, scrambling to be the first, for fear of being a step too late, and being preempted by later generations. Liu Sheng is an immortal bloodline, a super genius born once in a million years, and a golden bump in the entire sub-Jupiter region. Resources, weapons, equipment, whatever you want. They were worried about what to give Liu Sheng for climbing. Luo Feng, Earl of Black Dragon Mountain's 10 billion tubes of basic gene optimization fluid instantly opened up a new way of thinking for them. Yes. Liu Sheng lacks everything, but he lacks people related to him. Judging from Liu Sheng's attitude of caring so much about his mother planet, the mother planet must occupy an extremely important position in his mind. Sending things to Liu Sheng in the name of his home planet, it is perfect for him to meet his needs without falling off the tongue. At this moment, many nobles in the starry sky looked at the initiator Luo Feng with a little admiration in their eyes. The special brew really deserves to be the top Earl family boss who stands tall in the White Mist Star district. This method is superior to ordinary people. Dressed in a black gold robe, the elegant and calm Luo Feng smiled lightly, his face was full of the expression of "Learn more, youngsters, you are still too young." No, it's too polite. I'm ashamed of you all coming so far, how can I ask for things from you? Don't mention this matter again. Liu Sheng kept refusing, but he was flattered in his heart. Send it, just send it. It is best to arm the people of Azure Star to the teeth one by one, and raise their cultivation base to the 9th level of martial arts. In this way, he can rest assured that he will not be in Azure Star in the future. Liu Sheng has never been afraid to owe favors to others. The favors he owes will naturally be repaid thousands of times in the future. I have thousands of plans and assumptions for Azure Star in my heart, but I haven't taken the time to do it, and I really can't do everything by myself. It's good now, with them helping me figure it out, it can be done in one step, saving me a lot of time and energy. Liu Sheng was very happy. Meanwhile, all the Azure Star martial saints were stunned and absent-minded. 10 billion basic genetic optimization fluids, 1,000 spaceships, 1 million combat suits, 100 million tons of crushed black star iron. Those who were beyond their reach in the past are all high-level resources that can be exchanged for a little bit. Now people directly send hundreds of millions, tens of billions, and give Liu Sheng to Azure Star as if they don't need money. Liu Sheng was not happy if he didn't want them. Pretending to be trying to curry favor with Liu Sheng. This scene was too dreamy, and the impact and shock were so great that all the 9th level martial saints of the Azure Star stood in a daze and couldn't recover. They really couldn't understand what Luang had done in the past few months when he was born as the Blue Star, and why he suddenly transformed into such a terrifying starry figure. Among the crowd, there was a person with King Yu's sword-crying body resounding from within. It was Tan's Hongaiu. At this time, Tan's Hongaiu's eyes were clear and unparalleled, as if he had made a breakthrough in martial arts cultivation. Lin Zhenjiahu turned her head and asked him quietly, "Has the broken knife been recast?" Tan's Hongaiu looked complicated, looked at Liu Sheng who was surrounded by a group of nobles in the starry sky, and sighed in a low voice, "It has been recast a long time ago, and now it is completely recast." Lin Zhenjiahu nodded, also happy for Tan. "You said it's okay to compete with Liu Sheng, you have lost to someone like Liu Sheng, you should feel proud. From now on, we, Azure Planet, can be regarded as completely ascended to heaven because of Mr. Liu." Lin Zhenjiahu murmured softly. All the Azure Star martial saints around nodded silently, with complex expressions on their faces, more excited and delighted. The second day after Liu Sheng came back. Led by a group of Azure Star martial saints, the countries of Azure Star began to carry out a vigorous national transformation plan. It is mainly to collect the identity data of human beings around the world, so as to facilitate the distribution and transformation of subsequent genetic optimization fluids. When all the people of Azure Star know that this time is another blessing brought by the military god of the Dragon Kingdom, more benefits will be brought to everyone in the future. Suddenly, the entire Blue Star boiled again. After killing the evil halberd and saving the Blue Star, Liu Sheng's prestige in the hearts of mankind around the world once again reached a new peak. Compared with the martial saints from various countries who were called gods of the world before, Liu Sheng at this time is really more like a god. A god who is blessed by the common people. As for the title of Liu Sheng, he unknowingly changed from the original Dragon Kingdom army god to a human martial god. Dragon Kingdom, above Ningguai. Liu Sheng in casual 1.1 attire and Dong Qingxiu in cool attire stood on a yacht, like a pair of ordinary young couples on their honeymoon. Another wave. Liu Sheng raised his head, squinted his eyes and looked towards the top of his head. In his vision, one can see outside the atmosphere, in the starry sky, spaceships are rapidly approaching towards the blue star. Heilungshan, Bakehua and others left after the things were delivered. But during this period of time, there are still some starry sky noble families from the White Mist Star region coming in a steady stream. Forget it, let Cumberland Lin Zhenjiu receive them first, and see them later. Liu Sheng shook his head, turned to look at the sea below him. His eyes penetrated through layers of sea water and landed on a cave in the deep sea below the sea surface. Liu Sheng's eyes flickered and his expression was calm. On this trip, he came to thoroughly explore the truth of the crisis of the extinction of the blue star. 480 Finally. Found you again. 4. I'll go down for a while. If something unexpected happens, don't wait for me, just go by yourself. Liu Sheng turned to ask Dong Qingxiu. He remembered that when he fought against Lan Chen, he created a lava purgatory and wiped out all living beings. In the end, Dong Qingxiu still rushed inside foolishly, which was both touching and funny. Although Dong Qingxiu has now been promoted to a 7th level Grandmaster and is wearing the high-level combat uniform specially prepared for her by Liu Sheng still worries about her safety from time to time. No. Dong Qingxiu nodded, then tiptoed and kissed Liu Sheng on the lips. Be careful. As Liu Sheng's strength becomes higher and higher, and the stage she is on becomes bigger and bigger, Dong Qingxiu also cherishes every minute and every second she spends with Liu Sheng. She has a cold temper, but she is much more active and enthusiastic than before. Liu Sheng rubbed Dong Qingxiu's head and plunged into the sea without saying anything. Being in the sea, Liu Sheng's figure is nimble, aiming to be no different on land. The 12th level Northern Suanwu True Water Flow martial art made him feel like a duck to water, and his speed was actually a bit faster than on the shore. No change, Azure Star will still be destroyed after 8 years. This is the result deduced by Liu Sheng through the original force of the universe. Although now he is no longer worried about the safety of the blue star in the future. With his current status, if he wants, he can even pack and move every plant and tree on Azure Star. The so-called crisis of annihilation has become a joke. But Liu Sheng was still curious. What is it that will cause the entire planet of Azure Star to be completely destroyed in 8 years? After searching, it was found that the data source for the deduction of the original power of the universe came from here. When I fought against Jidao, I was seriously injured and fell into the Haiwan catacombs here. After half a year of healing, I was trapped by the consciousness fluctuations in the depths of the caves and fell into the space of the abyss. And then encountered the indescribable shadow in the space of the abyss. Liu Sheng reckoned in his heart that the crisis of annihilation deduced by the power of the source probably came from one of these two. Oh no, the fluctuation of consciousness under the crypt and the indescribable shadow in the space of the chasm are basically the same existence. As Liu Sheng thought about it, he gradually went deeper into the Haiwan cavern. He casually released his mental power and the power of Northern Suanwu True Water Flow, forming a terrifying strangling force field in the sea water around him. Those undersea beasts attracted by him were directly smashed into blood foam a few kilometers away from him. Then the smell of blood attracted more strange beasts, forming more blood foam. At the end of the evolution, with Liu Sheng as the center, a huge blood group with a radius of tens of kilometers moved down and spread rapidly in the Haiwan cavern. Apart from the strange beasts, this huge blood group alarmed some other beings in the Haiwan catacombs. At a place more than 10,000 meters deep into the Haiwan catacombs, several martial arts masters of the Dragon Kingdom who were practicing here rushed out from the dark, looking at the scene in front of them in shock. In their field of vision, this sea abyss is rapidly being infected by endless blood. Although it is impossible to detect it, it can be clearly felt that an indescribable terrifying existence is coming rapidly in this bloody center. Several people clung to the edge of the crypt until Bloody passed them by and disappeared into the depths of the crypt. Only then did the whole person relax suddenly, gasping for breath, feeling lingering in fear, as if encountering a ghost. Sheng ignored the few little guys he met and continued to go deep into the Highwind cavern. By the way, clean up the strange beasts encountered along the way. Although it is said that the alien beast comes from the dark side of the universe, it is the product of the coalescence of all the negative energies of the universe, and it cannot be killed at all. But it would be nice to be able to lighten the burden on the warriors on the blue planet who are resisting the invasion of alien beasts a little bit. When Sheng was more than 30,000 meters deep into Highwind catacombs, he began to feel a muscle throbbing in the palm of his right hand. He raised his hand and found that it was the dissimulated cell that had been left here during the remodeling of the Star Supreme. He almost forgot, but now he can't help remembering. Alienated cells have a special response to that indescribable shadow consciousness, indicating that it is nearby. As Sheng thought about it, his mental power quickly extended downwards. With his current 11th level spiritual power, he can easily cover the entire Azure Star. Although this sea abyss real estate is deep, he also penetrated to the bottom at once. The total depth is about 50,000 meters, and there are a lot of chasms underneath. Almost all the strange beasts in this cave come from these chasms below. There is also a level 9 alien beast. Sheng stared at a certain place and his eyes flickered. It was the 9th level strange beast he had encountered before. Of course, the almost ubiquitous, faint and bewitching consciousness fluctuations are also indispensable. In Sheng's view, with his current strength, as long as he is careful not to stray into the gap space, this Highwind property is not in any danger to him at all. It's a low-level map. Sheng stretched out his right hand, and under the dual guidance of the original power and the alienated cells in the palm, he continued to go deep into the abyss. After going deep into the Highwind catacomb for more than 40,000 meters, the place is almost covered with gaps. It's like a dilapidated road, full of puddles full of water. If you don't step on it, you don't know how deep it is. Even Sheng became a little more cautious. It should be here. Sheng stopped near the bottom of Highwind cavern. The guidance of the original power reached the end, and the alienated cells were also active to the extreme. Sheng scanned his surroundings, and there were grey, irregularly shaped chasms all around him, like big ferocious mouths, waiting for him to throw himself into a trap at any time. Sheng searched for a while. The mole-like alienated cells on the palm almost jumped out, but he found nothing. There seems to be something wrong. Sheng frowned, feeling a slight strangeness, but he didn't know where the strangeness came from. It was as if something was suddenly missing in the surrounding environment, and it suddenly became extremely quiet, terrifyingly quiet. What is it then? Sheng showed doubts, and approached the chasm proactively. Walking through the grey chasms one by one, pondering and exploring. When he came to a chasm the size of a person, Sheng suddenly had a flash of light in his mind. He suddenly realized. Finally remembered what was wrong. Consciousness fluctuations. The consciousness fluctuations in the depths of Highwind catacombs have disappeared. I don't know when it started, probably when he went deep to 45,000 meters. Can't remember. The ubiquitous consciousness fluctuations suddenly disappeared. Without the ever-present sense of seduction and temptation, Sheng felt unaccustomed to it. And just when Sheng noticed this, the alienated cells in his palm were suddenly active to the extreme, almost breaking free from his palm and jumping out. Then suddenly returned to calm. At the same time, right in front of Sheng, there was a chasm less than 1 meter away from him. The color suddenly changed from grey to pitch black. There is a little grey in the pitch black. Grey and white flickered. It was as if a huge eye blinked at Sheng. Then, A cold, evil, crazy, and chaotic consciousness roughly broke into Liu Sheng's mind. Long-lost voice. The long-lost consciousness fluctuates. Liu Sheng seemed to hear someone laughing happily in his ear. The voice called out cheerfully. Finally, found you again. Boom. In the next instant, an indescribable black hand came out from the gap and grabbed Liu Sheng's face. Time seemed to stand still at this moment. Liu Sheng's pupils contracted, and he froze in place in a daze. A big hand that is constantly approaching and zooming in is reflected in the eyes. 481 Dark Lord, Galaxy Crisis, Savior, 5. A strange and inexplicable force locked Liu Sheng firmly. Although it is not enough to make him freeze, it is enough to slow down his reaction speed by an instant. And in this split second, Liu Sheng fell into a state of absolute rigidity. He could only watch helplessly. An indescribable black hand suddenly protruded from the grey chasm. At the moment of passing through the chasm, this big hand was blocked by a layer of grey diaphragm. Pull, protrude. Liu Sheng broke free from the stiffness, subconsciously about to retreat. But when his body was about to move, he stopped his body vigorously. The big hand blocked by the diaphragm waved and flexed, and stopped less than an inch away from Liu Sheng's cheek. His fingertips almost touched Liu Sheng's pupils. The grey diaphragm was stretched to the extreme, although it felt like it would burst at any moment, it was still blocked after all. The consciousness fluctuations that were quite happy with the voice before now began to become irritable and furious. There were waves of weird and terrifying roars. That indescribable big black hand was also changing its shape crazily in front of Liu Sheng's eyes. It seemed as if he could catch Liu Sheng at any time, but he was still a little short. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Liu Sheng recovered from the initial shock and consternation, and regained his composure. He stood on the spot, quietly watching the black shadow monster on the opposite side of the abyss gap beating up into a rage, from embarrassment to anger. Turn around slowly. I saw a chasm half the height of a person, who did not know when, quietly appeared behind him, less than 1 meter away. If I took that step back just now, I should have fallen into, or been dragged into that abyss space full of grey bubbles. It's a pity, I was fooled once before, how could I be fooled again? The same move cannot be used twice against a saint. Liu Sheng sighed softly to the big black hand that was constantly changing in shape and blocked by the grey diaphragm. Looking at him at this time, there is no longer the feeling of horror and terror as before. Although I was still a little terrified, I always felt like watching a tiger in a zoo with its teeth and claws through a layer of glass. You, come here. Liu Sheng made a fist with his right hand, stretched out a finger, and made a classic provocative gesture towards him. I will finally catch you. He growled angrily. Then let's talk about it when you can catch me. Liu Sheng dug his ear with his little finger, pretending to be indifferent, extremely bachelor. Roar. He was incompetent and furious at Liu Sheng through the barrier between the two universes. Liu Sheng tried various ways to provoke him, and his anger spread wildly like a shadow. The countless chasms around Liu Sheng all turned into black in an instant, with grey and white flickering in the black. It was as if countless eyes were staring at Liu Sheng from all directions and different angles. Then, from every chasm, there are indescribable hands sticking out. For a while, the sea here was as strange and terrifying as Sen Luo Hell. Because of this, Liu Sheng really confirmed one thing. He really can't pass it. I really can't help it. Call. Liu Sheng breathed a sigh of relief, and then carefully withdrew from the abyss under his angry gaze. Okay, don't send it away. When he was about to leave his sight, Liu Sheng waved to him specially. Immediately, he was furious again. Liu Sheng retreated all the way to the depth of 30,000 meters, and the relaxed feeling on his face gradually disappeared, and his expression gradually became dignified. The power of the source is deduced, the future of the blue star. Liu Sheng used the power of the source to deduce it. The result obtained is destroyed after 7 years. Well, another year shortened. At this time, Lu Sheng could almost confirm that the destruction of Azure Star came from the existence of that indescribable shadow. And this countdown to destruction should be the time it takes for him to break through the grey barrier that blocks him between the chasms. Is it because of my repeated provocations that made him dig the wall much faster? Lu Sheng didn't know what to say, he could only say that he was great. 7 years. 7 years is enough time for me to migrate all the humans from the Azure planet to another living planet. To be on the safe side, within 5 years, no, within 3 years, the Starry Sky immigration plan can be gradually launched. There are also a few living planets that are relatively close to the blue star, and they can also help to migrate. As Lu Sheng thought about it, he wasn't in a panic. Suddenly, an idea popped up in his mind. And once this idea appeared, it spread wildly like wildfire, and it couldn't be suppressed. If. When he ran out of the chasm, it brought more than just a disaster of destroying a planet. What about the disaster that swept across a star area, or even a galaxy? This thought made Lu Sheng feel terrified, because a fine layer of cold sweat suddenly formed on his vest during the day. If this is the case, then things will be a big deal. It's not just about a small blue star, it's about the life and death of the entire white mist star region, and even the entire Serpentis galaxy. Lu Sheng's eyes flickered, thinking about whether to use the power of the source to make a prediction and give it a try. But he was afraid that he would calculate the worst result, so he hesitated for a while. If that's the case, it's better to know sooner rather than later. I intend to save the entire universe, so is it possible that I dare not face this little reality? Lu Sheng gritted his teeth and decisively used the power of the source to deduce. This time he is not deducing the future of Azure Star. Rather, the future of the entire Serpenti galaxy. The original light flickered slightly. Soon, the result calculated and predicted by the power of the source appeared in front of Lu Sheng. 7 years later, the Dark Lords invaded, and the White Mist Star area was destroyed. The Celestial Snake Galaxy has been completely reduced to the frontline battlefield of the Dark Side universe. There seemed to be a string in Lu Sheng's mind that was severely plucked. Even if it has been predicted that this result may be, but when it is really presented in front of myself, it's another feeling. An unprecedented sense of guilt enveloped Lu Sheng. In an instant, he fell into a situation of incomparable self-blame and incomparable guilt. Because the entire Serpentis galaxy will become the frontline battlefield for the massive invasion of the Dark Side universe. Just because of me. Tens of trillions of life forms on countless planets will lose their lives and face the end of death. Just because of my ignorance. Countless life forms in the entire Celestial Snake Galaxy have abruptly reduced their lifespan by 1 year. All because of me. Lu Sheng's expression was in a trance, his eyes trembled, and he muttered in his mouth. He couldn't describe how he felt at this moment. That is a pain billions of times more painful than the most painful thing in the world. And he is irreparable, unable to change, nowhere to vent, no one to talk about. Saviors? How could it be so easy to be a savior? Is it really enough to shout a few slogans casually? When the fate of billions of trillions of lives is connected with you alone. A small turn of your mind, a decision, a choice, a hesitation. It will cause the survival or destruction of billions of trillions of life. When Lu Sheng felt this deeply, the accompanying pressure and sense of responsibility were enough to fill the entire universe. Almost crushed him, crushed. Cannot breath. 482 Rekindle, extinguish until death, never extinguished. Mary. 1. Lu Sheng's life level is extraordinary and immortal. Can survive in many extremely harsh environments. But at this time, at the seabed of only 30,000 meters, he was hit by a bone-piercing coldness, and he was deeply enveloped by an unprecedented sense of suffocation. He seemed to be caught in the most difficult quagmire under the sun. It was difficult to move, and it became extremely difficult to even move the little finger. Liu Sheng once killed the Grand Master at the 6th level, the martial saint at the 8th level, and the warrior at the 5th level. In his life, he has accomplished too many feats that make people feel incredible, unimaginable, and impossible. He had thought he had nothing to fear. I used to think that there was no time in this world where I could have emotions similar to fear. He fights for a living and enjoys the thrill of walking between life and death. Even if he meets the most terrifying opponent, he will only be excited and have no fear. Facing the indescribable shadow in the gap space, he can also deal with it calmly and calmly break the situation. But now, Liu was scared. His strong heart that was pregnant with stars was trembling slightly. Liu Sheng raised a hand, as if he saw that his hand was connected with countless silk threads. At the end of the silk thread, planets are connected in series, and the creatures on the planets are connected in series. As long as he moves his fingers a little, countless planets may be destroyed and countless creatures will die. Not just in his 930 hands. His feet, body, arms, torso, every fine hair, every hair, are connected with countless silk threads. These threads wrap, entangle, and bind Liu Sheng. Made him immobilized, almost suffocated. Liu Sheng stood in the 30,000 meter deep sea, bowed his head and remained silent. The endless coldness and darkness around him swarmed towards him, forming a huge abyss, devouring him in one bite. There are endless despair, guilt, confusion, and fear in the abyss, forming countless hands, pulling Liu Sheng's body, making him fall. Just when Liu Sheng was about to fall into the unknown abyss. Snapped. A hand stretched out from the endless dark abyss, firmly grasping the edge of the abyss. Buckle up little by little, hold on, and then climbed up. The mistake I made. Liu Sheng raised his head slowly, his eyes were covered with bloodshot eyes, his face was haggard like a ghost, and he let out a rough and hoarse voice. I should make amends. After saying this, Liu Sheng took a deep breath. The sea water filling his body, the invisible pressure, ACI, force, the illusory thread, fear, guilt, confusion. Accompanied by his inhalation, they poured into his heart. Gathered into a little light in his chest, kindled a fire. The fire is not very blazing, but it gives people a feeling that it will be extinguished until death and will never be extinguished. Liu Sheng's expression returned to calm, the blood in his eyes subsided, and his thoughts returned to calm. 7 years, there are still 7 years. 7 years later, the Azure Star was destroyed, the barrier between the Dark Side universe and this Fang universe was torn apart on a large scale, the Dark Lord invaded, and the White Mist Star area destroyed the entire Unsnake galaxy and became the front-line battlefield against the Dark Side universe. Liu Sheng envisioned the current situation as an apple, and now some insects on the apple are eating the peel. Once the peel is completely bitten, the people living in the fruit, will suffer. Or, I will pass through the chasm and go around the outside of the fruit peel to kill all the bugs. Then the crisis can be mitigated to a great extent. Or, when the peel is completely bitten, I will take the lead and plug the gap first. 2 options. These are also the 2 methods that Liu Sheng thought of for the time being. Either way, they all need strong strength as a support, otherwise let alone killing bugs, I'm afraid they will be eaten by bugs. It's also a joke. Liu Sheng exhaled lightly, his eyes flickering. 7 years, 7 years. The Lord of the Dark Side, who can cause the fall of an entire galaxy, must be at level 14 or 15. Previously, he saw in the future deduced by the power of origin, how old was he when he reached level 15? I remembered. Long live. 7 years, 100,000 years. R.A. Liu Sheng thought for a while, and reached out his hand to grab out the alienated cell that looked like a mole on the palm of his right hand. Then he grabbed it casually, and an 8th level shark-like beast was abruptly captured by him from tens of kilometers away. Liu Sheng didn't kill the alien beast, but implanted his own alienated cells into it. A small alienated cell entered the body of the 8th level alien beast. In just a few breaths, the body of the 8th level alien beast was completely occupied by alienated cells and took over without any sense of disobedience. The 8th level beast blinked, and Liu Sheng looked at him. It does work. Feeling the rapid proliferation of alienated cells after transplantation, Liu Sheng could not help but cheer freely, and nodded with satisfaction. He let go of the 8th level beast in his hand, and the latter quickly swam down to the bottom of the sea. Just put it here, the only eye of the day. It is used to monitor the progress of the indescribable shadow in the gap space. Liu Sheng is not worried about any problems with the alienated cells, the big deal is just losing a little mental power. The 8th level alien beast that felt the alienation cell parasitism had already started to eat happily under the abyss at this moment, and Liu Sheng didn't bother to care about it, and walked out of the abyss as soon as he moved. On the surface of Ningyi, a handsome figure quietly emerged. Dong Qingxiu, who was standing on the yacht and staring at the sea, her eyes lit up, and she was about to go up to her. A figure suddenly appeared in front of her and hugged her into his arms. Dong Qingxiu was a little caught off guard, and before she had time to say anything, she was hugged tightly by a pair of strong and powerful arms. A familiar voice was buried in her neck, whispering in her ear. "Let's get married." Dong Qingxiu's delicate body trembled slightly, and a moment of absent-mindedness appeared on her face. But soon he calmed down, his eyes and face returned to calm. Putting his arm around Liu Sheng, he nodded firmly and replied, "Okay." On that day, Liu Sheng and Dong Qingxiu got married. No relatives or friends were invited, but the two families had a simple meal. The next day, Liu Sheng bid farewell to his newlywed wife and left from Azure Star on the White Hole shuttle. Independent space, a star that has no influence on the surrounding living planets, and the closest to the blue star. Liu Sheng withdrew his eyes from the star map, raised his eyes to look at a blazing star in front of the spaceship, his eyes flickered and said, "It should be this one." Liu Sheng traveled more than 10 light years, from Azure Star to here. Just 4. Find a suitable martial arts training ground. 483 Hard work, the competition will start, and the clouds will move in all directions. 2. The closest living planet to this star is 15 light years away. As long as it doesn't explode suddenly, it won't have much impact on the surrounding living planets. Liu Sheng also didn't think that with his current strength, he could toss a star in its prime to explode. At this time, the White Hole shuttle is still tens of thousands of kilometers away from the star. A huge blazing fireball was burning blazingly in the dark universe, almost occupying all of Liu Sheng's eyeballs. Liu Sheng squinted his eyes and stared at the sun for a while, remembering the time when he practiced thinking of the great sun. At that time, he couldn't stop crying even looking directly at the big sun above his head with his naked eyes, but now he is eager to enter the center of the sun to practice. Certainly. It's just eager to try. The temperature on the surface of a star reaches 6,000 degrees Celsius. At 3,000 degrees Celsius, steel will gasify. At 6,000 degrees Celsius, even atoms will be ionized. With my current strength, is it possible to withstand this temperature? Liu Sheng didn't know, and he didn't want to waste time thinking. Just try and you will find out. But before the test, you have to raise your strength further. Liu Sheng thought for a while, took out the communicator, and dialed a number. Soon, a standard human beauty in business attire appeared on the communicator. Lin Fei, a LOP's special life assistant for Liu Sheng. I'll send you a coordinate now, and after that, you will send me a batch of energy crystal resources every 10 days. As soon as the connection was made, Liu Sheng said to Lin Fei unceremoniously. Lin Fei nodded hastily, and then quickly said, "Lord Liu, the speaker asked me to ask, has the matter with your home planet been resolved?" It has been solved perfectly, thank you speaker for helping me. Lu Sheng nodded. That's good. Lin Fei breathed a sigh of relief, and then said, also, as the speaker mentioned to you before, invitations to the Interstellar Martial Arts Talent Exchange Competition have been sent out to 12 surrounding star regions. The venue of the contest is in our sub-Jupiter area, the location and time are undecided. Mr. Speaker wants me to ask for your opinion. Lu Sheng's eyes flickered, and he said calmly, I don't have any opinions, when the time and place are fixed, just let me know in advance. Okay. Lin Fei nodded. Lu Sheng didn't say anything, just cut off the phone. Afterwards, he stepped into the spaceship training room. In the training room of the spaceship, one can still clearly see the burning stars tens of thousands of kilometers ahead. Lu Sheng looked at the sun quietly, and took out all the energy crystal resources on his body from the storage space bracelet. Set, simulate a 50,000-fold gravity environment. It directly filled the limit of the spaceship training room. 50,000 times the gravity. The floor of the training room of the spaceship seemed to turn into a super-strong magnet in an instant, exuding an indescribably terrifying attraction and tearing Lu Sheng's body down. At the same time, a terrifying invisible hammer seemed to appear upwards, hitting Lu Sheng heavily. Boom! Clamping up and down, even if Lu Sheng lit up all the immortal cells in his body at the first time, the Star Supreme body also made a sound of creaking and being overwhelmed. His perfect flesh and bones burst apart inch by inch, and golden red blood flowed. The whole person became bloody in less than a second, incomparable. But Lu Sheng's eyes are still calm, and his back is always straight. The shadows of stars are reflected in his eyes, and the fiery fire burns in them. Step by step? No time for step by step. Use extraordinary methods at extraordinary times. Become stronger. I will do my best to become stronger regardless of anything. Stimulated by Lu Sheng's mental power, dozens of blood energy crystals around him suddenly flew up and shattered. It turned into a blood-colored energy flow visible to the naked eye, pouring into his martial body along the broken flesh. The golden lines in Star Supreme's body grow like the roots of trees, and the immortal cells in his body are also rapidly born one after another. Lu Sheng was driven by an unprecedented sense of urgency. So much so that on the second day of his wedding, he left his beautiful wife and left home to practice hard. For the first time in his life, he devoted himself to practice without reservation. And when Lu Sheng was crazily penanced, an invitation letter came from the House of Representatives of the Yamo Master Sector. At a speed beyond light, it traveled across star groups, star regions, and countless light years, and was sent to the hands of a famous star region leader and top powerhouse. Menyun Star District. A man with fine scales on his cheeks, no hair, and wearing a lavender robe opened the invitation letter, and the words Interstellar Martial Arts Talent Exchange Competition came into his eyes. The man's reptile-like eyes flickered, and he closed and cleared the invitation with a blank expression. It was as if he had never received this invitation letter. I just discovered a genius with an immortal-level extraordinary life physique in the sub-Ju star area, so I can't wait to show it off. I'm not as good as you wish. Don't go. Many geniuses and powerhouses are not allowed to go. Black Flounder Star Area. A heroic, red-haired woman wearing a red combat uniform and with light blue flames burning all over her body pushed open the heavy metal gate and strode into the magnificent hall. Zero ask for flowers. Zero. Father. The red-haired woman fixed her eyes on a tall man with the same red hair in the room, and said loudly, have you seen the invitation letter for the Genius Exchange Contest issued by the Yamua planet? The tall man sat at the long table without raising his head, and said calmly, I'm watching. The red-haired woman showed an inexplicable expression on her face, and said, please allow my father to allow me to participate. The tall man glanced up at the woman, and said, you know, not long ago, a genius with an immortal physique was discovered in the Yamua star area. I know. The red-haired woman's body was full of blue flames, just like her mood at the moment. That's why I'm going. What a rare opportunity to compete with the immortal bloodline. Maybe we can just take this opportunity to break the bottleneck of the blue extreme demon flame and transform the bloodline to a higher level. The red-haired woman stretched out a hand, and the blue flames all over her body quickly converged towards her palm, and collapsed, finally showing the effect of 2 layers of shattered void. Her eyes were burning brightly, and her whole body exuded eagerness to fight. The tall man squinted his eyes and watched her, finally showing a gratified smile on his face. Go, immortality is not a myth that cannot be broken, the glory of the Blue Devil family will be displayed and continued in you, my daughter. The red-haired woman knelt down on one knee, clenched her right fist lightly in front of her left chest, and replied solemnly and respectfully, I will never let you down. Hill Star District. A graceful and luxurious old man gently closed the invitation letter, with an inexplicable light in his eyes. Immortal level. The Yamu Star region is really lucky this time, and they can discover such a bloodline. However, Immortal, whose strength is only level 9, hastily shouted to bear the strength of the genius martial arts exchange capital. Maybe he was too impatient. As he spoke, the old man lightly pressed a button in front of him. Not long after, someone came in from outside the door and saluted him respectfully, Sir Speaker, what are your orders? The graceful old man said casually, in my name, tell Monroe. Just ask if his plan to go to the different space battlefield can be postponed for a while. There's an interesting game here, maybe he'll be interested. As he spoke, the old man Yangrong sent the invitation letter to the communicator in his subordinate's hand. The latter nodded respectfully, and quickly retreated in response. The graceful old man showed a smile, and said to himself, Immortal level bloodline of level 9, level 11, it should be almost level 12, Sun level bloodline. Which one is stronger? It's an exciting match indeed. Ha ha ha, 1. 484 Hurricane Advance, Emerald Merchant Group, 3. Under a full 50,000 times the gravity, the void in the entire training room showed an unnaturally distorted state. Crunch crunch. Liu Sheng slowly stood up from the ground. Compared with 10 days ago, Liu Sheng seems to be a few centimeters shorter. From the original 2 meters to the current 1 meter 9. But his whole person gives people an extremely solid and heavy temperament. There are 10% more gold patterns all over the martial body than before, and the infinite light and heat are extremely restrained. In the body, more than 30,000 immortal cells are quietly burning, outlining a gorgeous and splendid star map of the Sun God realm. About there. Liu Sheng raised his hand and moved a little. Then ordered to turn off the gravity simulation. After 10 consecutive days of 50,000-fold gravity simulation, the energy stored in the spacecraft was almost exhausted. All the energy crystals are used by him for practice. Without the energy supplement of 057, the White Hole shuttle can barely maintain daily operations by absorbing space radiation. This is also one of the reasons why Liu Sheng chose real stars as his training ground. Although the training room on the spaceship is convenient, it consumes a lot of energy. He himself is a big energy consumer, and if he eats energy crystals with his mouth, the supply of resources every day is not enough. Although the resources of the entire sub-Jupiter region are squandered by Liu Sheng at will, they can save as much as possible. There is a natural stellar practice field, why spend extra energy crystals to simulate the practice environment? Thinking, Liu Sheng stepped out of the spaceship. He set the White Hole Traveler to wait in place and turned on the defense system. He expected that there should be no problem. Then it shuttled away towards the stars tens of thousands of kilometers away. At Liu Sheng's current speed, the distance of tens of thousands of kilometers. It's just a blink of an eye. Boom! The fiery planet appeared in front of Liu Sheng in an instant. The surface temperature of a star is above 6,000 degrees. Liu Sheng didn't feel too hot. Unexpected, but also within reason. When I was at the 8th level, the flame controlled by the 3rd level state of the empty state was more than 1000 degrees. The temperature of more than 6000 is really nothing to me now. Liu Sheng's eyes flickered. Let's go deeper. Before going deep, Liu Sheng took off his battle suit and put it into the space storage bracelet. Then he threw the space storage bracelet viciously in the direction of the spaceship. Liu Sheng, who was completely naked, turned towards the sun in front of him. Take a step forward. The maximum temperature inside a star can reach billions of degrees, which can meet my cultivation requirements. Liu Sheng shuttled between light and heat, and the rolling heat wave wrapped him up. All the pores in his body are pumping out energy, the more than 30,000 immortal cells in his body are echoing with the stars outside. Immortal cells are rapidly generated one after another. The speed is even faster than Liu Sheng's cultivation with blood energy crystals. At the same time, there was a terrifying suction force from inside the star, not inferior to the pressure he endured under 50,000 times the gravity. Liu Sheng was surprised and delighted. I should have come here to practice a long time ago. To me, this is the real paradise. Liu Sheng is like a fish in water, constantly going deep into the interior of the star, greedily sucking the flesh and blood of the sun. The number of his immortal cells in the star supreme body are growing rapidly. The golden lines on the martial body grew rapidly, gradually outlining rounds of golden suns on his chest, back and eyebrows. It won't be long before I can reach the ultimate level 9. Then it's time to quickly fill in the last piece of the martial arts method, and officially hit the 10th level. Liu Sheng made up his mind to return his mental power to the dream space. He rushed towards the inheritance point of the last kind of earth martial arts. On this day, Saint is soaring. Time flies. Nearly 3 months have passed since the Yamua Star District sent the invitation letter for the Interstellar Martial Arts Talent Exchange Competition to the 12 star districts. The convening of this competition is also like a huge meteorite, cutting through the silence of the starry sky, smashing hard in the 12 star districts, breaking the peace of the 12 star districts over the years. Countless big shots, martial arts experts, and geniuses from the 12 star regions came here in spaceships across light years. So much so that not only the sub-Jupiter region, which is the organizer of the competition, but also several star regions around the sub-Jupiter region have also become lively. In the starry sky, a dark blue, shuttle-shaped, slender and graceful large spaceship passed by silently. This is a large merchant ship from another star sector. When the Interstellar Martial Arts Genius Exchange Contest was in full swing, many interstellar merchants also took advantage of this opportunity, carrying a full supply of goods across several interstellar. In the name of watching the excitement, by the way, you can also make a wishful thinking. This ship is clearly one of them. Inside the dark blue spaceship, a tall figure with a majestic physique stood by the window, quietly looking at the quiet and beautiful starry sky with its hands behind its back. From time to time, people walked by in the merchant ship. But no matter who it is, when they pass by this majestic body, there will be a trace of respect on their faces, and they will politely call out, "Mr. Liao." Just over half a month ago, when the Emerald Merchant Group completed a space jump and crossed from the Morton Star area to the border of the White Mist Star area, they encountered a wave of star robbers who intercepted and chased them down. Under the pursuit of the fierce star thief group, the escort team of the Jade Merchant Group suffered heavy losses and was about to be looted. Fortunately, at this time, a small spaceship passed by. A person walked out of this small spaceship. With 3 moves and 2 moves, he killed a group of ferocious star thieves to pieces, and finally drove away the star thieves and successfully rescued the Emerald Merchant Group. And this man? It's Leo. Because the small spacecraft that Leo was on was unfortunately damaged in the battle, after learning that the purpose of Leo's trip was also the location of the Interstellar Martial Arts Genius Exchange Conference in the Yamua Star District. The head of the Emerald Merchant Group warmly invited Leo to board the Emerald spaceship, partly to express his gratitude, and the other half to use Leo's powerful force to complete the rest of the journey safely. After the Interstellar Martial Arts Genius Exchange Conference was held in the Yama 1.3-star area, it is not only the masters and business groups, but also those vicious star thieves who make a living by robbing houses. Along the way, the Emerald Merchant Group has heard that many merchant ships have been robbed, all the goods have been robbed, and vicious incidents where even people have been killed have occurred. There are more than a dozen star bandits gathered in the star area, and the star police of the law enforcement department in several star areas such as Yamu and Beiwu are simply too busy. At this time, a green-haired woman with a plump figure, a soft figure, and a beautiful appearance appeared behind Li Ao. The woman wore a luxurious and elegant fringed dress, graceful and elegant, with the temperament of a superior. Seeing Li Ao's back standing with his hands behind his back, the green-haired woman's beautiful eyes flickered slightly, a smile appeared on her face, and she walked up quickly. No more updates today, I want to rest early. 485 Different Space Battlefield, Contest Popularity, 1. What is Master Leo thinking about? Leo, who was standing by the window, turned around slowly when he heard the voice. When he saw the green-haired woman in front of him, he nodded slightly, "Dear Ms. Phoenix." He glanced out the window and said casually, "It's just to pass the boring time, the starry sky is beautiful, isn't it? Just call me Fins." The green-haired woman gently flicked her hair by her ears, then followed Li Ao's eyes to glance at the dark and quiet outside, and from time to time, 1 or 2 shooting stars flashed across the starry sky. "Yes, but after watching it for a long time, I feel boring and monotonous," Li Ao said, "but for some people in certain places, it is a luxury to even enjoy this boring and monotonous scenery." Phoenix's beautiful eyes flashed. Mr. Leo is a man with a story. Li Ao smiled slightly, looking out the window at the starry sky. At this time, the spaceship of the Emerald Merchant Group was entering a new section of the starry sky. In the distance, a flaming red star was dotted, making the dark starry sky even more monotonous and boring. In the alien space battlefield, all you can see are 3 colors: grey sky, black beasts, and 02. Li Ao turned his head and looked directly into Fainetha's eyes, red blood. There was an inexplicable coldness in Li Ao's words, which shocked Phoenix, who froze in place, unable to say a word. Soon, Phoenix recovered from the shock, and asked incredulously, "Mr. Li has ever been to the different space battlefield?" Li Ao nodded slightly, and said with emotion, "I used to stay there for a while, but that place is too dangerous, even the top experts and geniuses are in danger, unable to adapt to that cruel life, so they retired early." "It's amazing enough," Phoenix murmured. "The invasion of alien beasts is something that every citizen of the starry sky knows, and the front against alien beasts is almost everywhere in the starry sky. But what ordinary people can touch and understand is just the lowest and superficial part. The truly tragic battlefield is still in the different space. An alien space independent of the starry sky. That is the real main battlefield for all the races in the starry sky to resist the invasion of alien beasts. The current tranquility and peace in the starry sky are all the result of the hard work of the strong people in the alien space battlefield. It is said that there is also a threshold for entering the different space battlefield. If the strength is less than 11th level, there is no qualification to enter at all. And those who can come back alive from the different space battlefield. It can even be called a real strong man." Phoenix did not expect that Leo was such a strong man who returned from the battlefield of different space. No wonder Mr. Leo is so brave," Phoenix murmured. Her eyes showed a bit of urgency, and she asked curiously, "Mr. Li Yang, can you tell me what the different space battlefield is like?" At this time, the spaceship of the Emerald Merchant Group was much closer to the star that appeared in the field of vision before. The blazing stars were reflected in Leo's eyes, bringing out some memories. Alien space battlefield. It is the cradle of the strong and the field of competition for the arrogant. It is also a meat grinder for the weak. Every moment, there are talented and powerful people rising, and there are also unfortunate people dying. Blood and fire filled the entire space. There's no time to breathe, just despair, death, and a faint light shining through the cracks. The light of the stars in the starry sky penetrated the windows of the spaceship, intertwining inexplicable colors on Leo's face. Phoenix's heart trembled slightly. She just felt that the man in front of her was exuding an incomparable masculine charm at this moment, which gave her an urge to throw him into his arms. Phoenix resisted the urge, thought for a while, and said, "Let the bad memories go. Mr. Leo must have extraordinary force if he can come back alive from the different space battlefield. Going to participate in the Interstellar Genius Martial Arts Exchange competition this time, not to mention shining in the starry sky, but at least finding a good job is absolutely no problem." Leo smiled slightly, shook his head and said, "I have long been tired of fighting, and I am indifferent to fame and fortune. Now I just want to have a shelter, let me live a normal life." Phoenix's eyes lit up, she took 2 steps forward subconsciously, and blurted out, "Then why don't you come to our business group and serve as the leader of our business group's guards? The treatment is convenient, and Mr. Leo will definitely not be disappointed." Phoenix is a woman who has been in charge of the Jade Merchant Group independently for so many years, and she has long been exhausted physically and mentally. She wanted to have someone to rely on for support. Leo's appearance coincides with his meeting, his powerful strength, and mysterious past, like the fog in the starry sky, attracts Phoenix deeply, making her unable to help but want to take the initiative to approach step by step. Leo's face seemed to be moved when he heard Phoenix's proposal. Leo turned his head and looked at Phoenix. "Does Captain Phoenix really think so?" At this time, the spaceship was approaching the burning star, and the brilliance of the star made Gao's body even more majestic. Phoenix looked at the man in front of her, her cheeks blushed inexplicably, she lowered her head shyly, and said in a low voice, "Of course. And Mr. Leo, just call me Phoenix from now on, the leader. I really don't see you outside." Leo looked at the shy Phoenix with an inexplicable smile on his face. The spaceship brushed past the stars, and the extreme light and fire shone into the window, reflecting the figures of the 2 people quite gorgeously, and there was a romantic atmosphere of the starry sky flowing here. Ding dong! A crisp sound broke the beauty, and the communicator on Nice's wrist received a new inquiry. "Let me see." Phoenix tried her best to hide her shyness by checking the consultation, and clicked on the information. "This is a piece of information about the Interstellar Martial Arts Talent Exchange Competition. Listed above are some popular stars in the 433 competition. Grey from the Blue Demon clan in the Black Flounder Star region has an extraordinary life physique at the Huido level. He is only over 700 years old this year, and already has the strength of the peak of the 10th level. It is said that it is very possible to break the shackles of physique and push the family blood to another level. There is also the Ice Demon Monroe of the Hill Star District, who has an extraordinary life physique of 3 stars in the sun. It is said that he may enter the 12th level at any time, and there are even rumors that he has already entered the 12th level. God, he is not even 400 years old this year." While browsing through the information on the news, Phoenix let out exclamations of surprise from time to time. She didn't realize at all that when Leo, who was standing in front of him, glanced at the genius materials, his originally indifferent face gradually became a little gloomy. "And this?" Phoenix pulled to the end, pointing to an image and shouting. The video showed a handsome young man with gorgeous gold patterns all over his body, like a god in the starry sky. The person who deserves the most attention in this competition is also the key to the Sub-Jupiter district launching this exchange competition. The owner of the immortal bloodline that emerges once in a million years in the Sub-Jupiter region. Phoenix stared at the stalwart figure in the video, and said, "Immortal level extraordinary life physique, I thought it was something in legends, but I didn't expect it to exist in reality. Ask for flowers and monthly tickets." 486 Reversal, Deserter, Star Thief. 2. That's right. Immortal level. Even in the different space battlefield, it is extremely rare and dazzling. Li Ao's voice rang in Fennis' ear. At this moment the coldness on his face had completely disappeared, returning to his original indifference. Fennis stared at the information on the news, and said, "But the strength of this immortal class is a bit weak. There are only 9 levels. In this competition, I am afraid that the light will be overshadowed by other geniuses." Before the game, it was predicted that his chance of winning the championship was less than 20%. On the contrary, the Ice Demon Monroe from the Hill sector is the #1 favorite. Fennis said, looked up at Leo, blinked, and said, "Mr. Li Ao really don't plan to sign up for the competition? With your strength, it's easy to hit the top 1000. Li Ao's eyes flickered, and he said, "No need, I'll just go and see the excitement." "All right." When Fennis heard Leo's affirmative answer that he would not participate, she was a little happy instead. The top talent exchange competition that gathers more than 10 star regions is unprecedented and attracts much attention. Once you take the lead in the competition, you will definitely be recruited desperately by countless families, forces, and financial groups. The Emerald Merchant Group is not powerful in the starry sky. If Li Ao becomes famous, her hope of keeping him will be very slim. The two chatted casually. The isolated stars in the distance are brilliant, and through the window of the spaceship, there is a magnificent feeling of watching the sunset in the starry sky. Just when Fennis felt that everything was moving towards a bright future, Li Ao in front of him suddenly looked down at the communicator in his hand, and said to himself, "It should be almost there." Fennis was curious, "What's the matter?" "It's almost time." Leo smiled at her. Fennis was stunned for a moment, but she still hadn't recovered from what Li Ao said. At this time, boom! The jade, which was flying smoothly, suddenly shook violently, as if it had been hit hard. In just a split second, the peace in the spaceship was completely broken. Countless sirens blared, and countless people hurried around. An anxious and flustered voice came out of the communicator in Fennis's hand, and someone reported in a panic, "Leader, our spaceship is being attacked by unknown persons, most likely star robbers." "Star thief?" Fennis's heart beat violently, and her expression became tense. At this time, a calm voice sounded in her ear. "Take me to the escort." "It's Leo." Fennis seemed to have a backbone all of a sudden, with a light of hope in her eyes. She nodded quickly. "Good." Soon, Fennis led Leo to the position of the guard of the merchant group. At this time, the spaceship is constantly being attacked by multiple parties. Through the windows of the spaceship, one can already see star pirate spaceships cruising around the Emerald. Like a pack of bloodthirsty wolves, it makes people frightened. "Lord Leo! Your Excellency Leo is here!" The appearance of Leo and Fines quickly stabilized the members of the guards that had assembled earlier. Their eyes lit up, and their faces showed excitement. They looked at Leo's eyes, full of reverence. Because it was this man who helped them get rid of the star thief before. It could be done before, and it certainly can be done now. Li Ao stretched out his hands and pressed in the air, calming down the excited emotions of the guards. He is tall and straight, with a smile on his face, and he has the temperament of a natural leader, giving people an inexplicable sense of confidence and trust. Including Fennis, everyone in the cabin was waiting for his order. "Have all the guards arrived?" Leo asked Fennis. "It's all here, all the guards of our Jade Merchant Group." Fennis answered quickly, her beautiful eyes flickering, with a hint of anticipation and excitement. She was looking forward to how the man in front of her would turn the tide. "Okay." A smile appeared on Leo's face. Scanning the audience, his eyes swept across tense, excited, adoring faces. Suddenly, Li Ao flipped his palm, and grabbed out a cold alloy long knife out of thin air. Then, before everyone could react, he aimed at the crowd below and slashed fiercely. The light of the knife shone, cut through the transparent void, and formed long cracks with black fine starbursts, which spread out suddenly. Instantly, blood flowed like a river. Li Ao's figure rushed into the guard group like a phantom, with the light of the knife like a shadow. After a few breaths, in the huge cabin, there are stumps and broken arms all over the place, and the walls of the cabin are covered with bloodstains. Li Ao stood in a pile of broken limbs, and released the alloy long knife in his hand from the head of a guard. The latter still had a look of confusion and astonishment on his face. He probably didn't figure it out until he died. Why did the big hero and savior of the Jade Merchant Group turn into a vicious butcher of the starry sky in an instant? Phineas didn't want to understand either. The whole person stood still, staring at the scene in front of him stupidly. On her charming face, there was still a trace of blood that was accidentally splashed on it. Finally, Phineas came back to her senses. The body began to tremble violently. There was a look of extreme shock and disbelief in her eyes. She fixed her eyes on Li Ao, and murmured repeatedly, "Why, why, why?" Li Ao smiled softly while wiping the blood on the alloy long knife. All the stalwart and light on his body faded away, and his whole body exuded an extremely cold and fierce temperament. "Because, you have always been my prey." Li Ao walked up to Phineas step by step, and looked at her with a half-smile. Then he stretched out his hand abruptly, and lifted Ni Wenjiao up by grabbing her. Phineas struggled desperately in Leo's hands with difficulty and helplessness, and Leo lifted it up and stared at her. "I exaggerated some of the things about the different space battlefield before. In fact, there are still many colors in the alien space battlefield. The blood of many starry sky races is colorful and beautiful. Dear Lady Fines, I wonder what color your blood is." Smiling, Li Ao grabbed Phineas close to him, and whispered to her word by word, "There is one more thing I forgot to tell you. Actually, it's not, Zhao Li's, I don't want to participate in any interstellar martial arts talent exchange competition. It's that I can't participate at all. Because I am a deserter who escaped from the space battlefield. Even the identity of the citizens of the starry sky has been deprived." Phineas's beautiful eyes widened suddenly, her mouth was slightly opened, her face was full of despair. After half a day, in this quiet starry sky, the sudden war has subsided, and a looting is coming to an end. The emerald is like a stranded whale floating quietly in the starry sky. The huge body is full of traces of being gnawed. Dozens of star thief spacecraft surrounded the emerald. Hundreds of star thieves are excitedly chasing and killing the remaining business group members, laughing wildly from time to time. It's a thug's orgy. And not far from this messy battlefield, a star is burning like a huge eye, watching all this quietly. 487 The perfect martial arts, the profound technique Golden Crow. 3. Li Ao was surrounded by a group of star thieves, looking at everything in front of him indifferently. The star thieves came and went in and out of the Emerald spaceship, searching for a large amount of resources and property. A cheerful atmosphere wanders in the starry sky. The boss's strategy is superb. He won their trust with a little trick, disintegrated their defense from the inside, and took it down without any effort. A bearded star thief held up an energy beam gun and shouted loudly, "Boss is awesome." Others also shouted, "Xingju Liu! Star Dove Liu!" Many star thieves surrounded Li Ao, shouting his name, their faces were full of fanaticism and excitement. "Xingju Liu, so you are Xingju Liu." Phineas, who was bound by energy handcuffs behind her back, stared at Liu, and said with a dazed expression, "Wanted by more than 8 star regions, SSS level star fugitive, Xingju Liu." Li Ao turned his head and rushed slightly. "Need to get to know each other all over again? Dear Fines." Phineas's eyelids twitched, her expression suddenly became agitated, she gritted her teeth and said, "You won't be complacent for long, the Emerald has been under the surveillance of the Interstellar Law Enforcement Network. From the moment you attacked the Emerald, the Star Police have received the news, and they will arrive soon." "Really? 727 Leo looked down at the time of the communicator on his wrist, and pretended to be surprised. It really is, thanks to your reminder, nice eye. We should speed up. As he said that, Leo ordered coldly to his subordinates, prepare to evacuate within a minute. The star thieves under him acted quickly. Instead, Leo looked at Phineas with admiration and said, Dear Phineas, you helped me again. To thank you. Leo lowered his head and thought for a while, his eyes lit up soon, and he said to Phineas with a smile, I have decided, let all my subordinates take turns to accompany you tonight. Ah! The star thieves who heard this sentence cheered one by one and laughed obscenely. Phineas's pretty face quickly turned pale, ashen ashes. At this time, the remorse in her heart was churning like thousands of blades. Because of her stupidity, she not only ruined herself, but also ruined the entire Emerald Merchant Group. 30 seconds later, all the star thieves returned to their spaceships, and the looting was completely over. In the huge starry sky, only the emerald, which looks like the corpse of a giant whale, floats quietly in the starry sky. Leo looked at his masterpiece with satisfaction, with a confident and calm smile on his face, everything under control. Destroy the ship too, don't leave anything of value to those star police. Leo ordered casually. Yes. The muzzles of Star Thief spacecraft began to light up, aiming at the Emerald Merchant ship. Just when the last trace of the Emerald Merchant Group in the starry sky was about to be erased. Suddenly, someone in the Star Thief group exclaimed. Damn! What's that? All the Star Thieves were stunned, including Leo, all of them subconsciously followed the prestige. The source of the Star Thief's exclamation comes from the stars behind them. When everyone turned their heads to look at the stars, their expressions were startled, and then their pupils shrank, and they froze in place. I saw that in the star not too far away from them, a little white light suddenly lit up quickly. The speed of the white light was very fast, and it arrived in front of everyone in an instant. What a huge hand that is! It is hundreds of kilometers in size. The whole body is crystal clear and bright, carved like a diamond crystal, and the patterns are clearly visible. Blot out the sun. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of many star thieves. Everyone was stunned. Their minds were deeply shocked by a great shock that could not be spoken, and they forgot to think and speak for a while. After all, Leo is the #1 character in Star Thief, and he recovered quickly after a brief absence. Shouted loudly, attack! The Star Thieves woke up as if they had just woken up from a dream. They turned the muzzles of their spaceships one after another, and fired beams of energy beams at the huge, godlike hand. But the action was a little late. The big bright hands clattered across the starry sky, creating ripples and ripples visible to the naked eye. The void is like a rag under this big hand, and it has been torn into large black, edge holes. And the spaceships placed on this curtain are even more like toys under the big hands. Just a face-to-face meeting, 7 or 8 Star Thief spacecraft were directly smashed by the big hand, and exploded into a ball of sparks in the starry sky. Spread! Leo let out a loud roar, and calmly walked away from his body, exuding a thick cold and fierce aura. This is what he is called Xingju. The Star Thieves hurriedly controlled the spaceships to disperse, waved their big hands around, and caught several spaceships. Cooperate with me. Leo pulled out his alloy long knife suddenly, and rushed towards the big hand like a streamer. The power belonging to the 11th level powerhouse is completely released. Leo, like a brave vulture, wielded the sword light, and with the help of the energy beams emitted by the Star Pirate spacecraft, he fought with the bright big hands. Under the attack of various energy beams and Leo's knife light, the big bright hand continuously splashed fine crystal chips, turning into little white light and dissipating in the starry sky. Compared with the bright hand hundreds of kilometers in size, Leo is as small as dust. But it was also because of this that he was able to dodge the grasping of the bright big hand again and again flexibly. The bright big hand seems to have realized his clumsiness very quickly. Suddenly, it freezes. The whole big hand disintegrated inch by inch, turning into white light that filled the sky and dissipated. Li Ao and the star thieves stopped, staring solemnly at the place filled with white light. Before long, they saw. In the white light, a handsome young man in a silver combat uniform stepped out calmly. The young man looked calm, and his cold eyes scanned the audience. It seems that a king in the starry sky has descended here. Grade 10. Li Ao felt the realm breath emanating from the young man, and he froze for a moment. It seems that some can't believe it. Soon, his expression became ferocious. Die! He raised his long knife, his long hair fluttering, and ran towards the young man with a murderous look. But the young man just looked at him very calmly. He leaned against the stars, but his body radiated a more brilliant light than the stars. His hair quietly changed from black to golden, and his face and body also emitted a golden light of the utmost beauty. A surging heat wave gushed out of his body, melting the combat uniform on his body. A majestic body as perfect as God's creation is presented in front of everyone. On this body, golden lines spread, outlining a gorgeous and inexplicable totem. On the forehead of the young man, a brilliant golden circle appeared. In the center of the circle is a dazzling red gold light. Like a round, real sun. The aura on the young man's body also rose rapidly, crazily. In an instant, it reached an appalling level. The void collapsed layer upon layer around him. Reveal black. Then white. Black again. Li Ao's footsteps were frozen, and he looked at the young man in front of him with horror. Then he heard the young man speak softly to him. Shiquan martial arts, profound truth golden crow. 488. Is this the power of immortality? Complete system completed. 4. As he spoke, the young man punched Li Ao flatly. Words cannot describe the splendor of this punch. Everyone can only vaguely see countless light clusters surrounding it, forming the shape of an oven. In the oven, a huge three-legged divine bird spread its wings and flew up, and its clear singing shook the world. At last, all these visions turned into a light that was brilliant to the extreme. The light disappears. Leo, who was facing the light, also disappeared. Only half of the alloy long knife remained, and it fell into the starry sky with a thud, slowly floating. It was as if Leo had never appeared. The young man slowly retracted his fist. In the dark starry sky, there was no sound, and time seemed to freeze. All the stars stared blankly at the scene in front of them, their brains lost the ability to think and became like puppets. Star Dove Leo. Their leader, Xingzhu Li Ao, who has been to the top of the 11th level in the different space battlefield. Under the punch of the young man in front of him, not even a strand of hair remained. Just die. A great sense of horror and shock rose from the bottom of their hearts, turned into an electric current, went all the way up the tailbone, and spread throughout the whole body in an instant. Fear. Unparalleled terror. At this time, the youth made another move. He stretched out a hand and gently tapped his forehead. The red golden sun between the eyebrows, like the third god's eye, quickly disappeared, and with it, the gorgeous golden patterns on his body also disappeared. After a while, the brilliance of the youth faded away, and the brilliant blonde hair turned black again, and the whole person became ordinary and handsome. However, the crystal-like crystals of the sun bloomed from the depths of his eyes. Perfect martial arts, profound truth Shen Feng. The young man spoke calmly. Then put your hands together like an old monk, and gently raise them above your head. The whole person makes a posture similar to praying to heaven. Accompanied by the young man's action, all the star thieves suddenly felt a great horror in their hearts, because of fear. Eyebrows twitching, heart pumping. An extremely strong sense of life and death crisis, as if his head will fall to the ground in the next second. These people subconsciously wanted to control the spaceship to escape. But at this time, the palms that the young man raised above his head had already been swung flatly and chopped off. A circle of black ripples that were as transparent as crystals and as sharp as blades centered on the young man's clasped palms spread out violently. The black crystal ripples spread throughout the audience in an instant. The spaceship swept by the black crystal ripples immediately extinguished its light and froze in place. Inside the spaceship, all the star thieves froze, their eyes quickly turned grey, and soon fell headlong in front of the console. It was as if all their vitality had also been cut off with the spread of the ripples. The young man let go of his hands, and the sparkle in his eyes faded. He casually grabbed a communicator and dialed a certain number. Nailed it. The young man said lightly to the communicator, "Let the Star Police come to clean up the battlefield as soon as possible." "Yes, yes." A shocking and inexplicable voice came from the communicator. The young man ignored it, cut off the communication casually, then turned around and flew in the direction of the stars. At the same time, Finis, who was in a certain Star Thief spaceship with her hands handcuffed behind her back, stared blankly at the distant figure. A flash of inspiration suddenly flashed in the blank brain. An image on a piece of information she had read not long ago suddenly jumped out of her memory. Possessed with gorgeous golden patterns, he is as majestic as a young man in the starry sky. Slowly overlapping with the back figure walking towards the sun in front of me, finally. 2 in 1. Boom. Finis trembled as if struck by lightning. With a dull expression, he murmured in a low voice, Is this the power of immortality?" Sheng flew in the direction of the sun. A star in its prime emits an infinite amount of light and heat enough to vaporize metal. But for Sheng today, it's like a spring breeze, which couldn't be more appropriate. Sheng looked at his hands and murmured thoughtfully, "How strong am I now?" He does not know. In that battle just now, he did not find a definite answer. Grade 10. 3 multi-universe months Luxin finally entered the 10th level from level 9. The number of immortal cells in the body reached an unprecedented 80,000. What is the concept of 80,000 immortal cells? The most intuitive concept is Sheng is now using the 5 seasons Divine Fist to welcome the arrival of the 5th season of the Ancient. Already able to play a real 3-legged golden crow vision. Just like the punch that killed Leo just now. To be honest, Sheng didn't even use half of his punch. Pity. Sheng couldn't help shaking his head when he thought of this. The space storage bracelet was knocked out by such a punch from me, the leader of the 11th level Star Thief. God knows how many valuable things Zyajin Curry has. But thinking about it, I don't seem to be short of money now, so it doesn't matter. This retreat, in addition to a huge breakthrough in strength. 0 Ask for flowers. Sheng's greatest achievement is the overall planning and sorting out of his own martial arts. He barely set up a prototype of his own, complete martial arts system. It still needs continuous improvement, absorbing the essence of other people's martial arts to fill the gaps in my martial arts. Sheng looked at his right hand and slowly clenched it, thinking to himself. Before he knew it, Sheng came to the other side of the star. There is a beautiful silver-grey spaceship hovering here. It is the White Hole Shuttler spaceship that he has neglected for 3 full multi-universe months. Sheng entered the spaceship and first found a battle suit to put on. Every time I activate the Star Supreme body, my clothes will explode. I have to find a good battle suit. Sheng's eyes flickered. He is not an exhibitionist, but the power of the immortal cells after igniting the fire of divinity is too terrifying. The temperature of the body's surface is so high that even a 10th level combat suit cannot bear it. 0. So much so that every time he fights shirtless, he has to spend part of his mental power to put a mosaic on the sensitive parts of his lower body. What do you call this? Beep beep. When Sheng put on his combat uniform, the communicator rang. From Dongqingxiu. There was a trace of tenderness in Sheng's eyes, and he answered the signal. Hey love. You're all here, right? Okay, I see. I'm coming right now, I should be there soon. Sheng hung up the communication with a slightly sad expression. He and Dong Qingxiu were just married for 1 day, so they came directly to penance. Dong Qingxiu really suffered. So Liu Sheng took advantage of the grand event of the Interstellar Martial Arts Talent Exchange competition held in the Yamua Star area, and found someone to pick up his parents, wife, and several good martial saints who were far away on the Blue Star. Taking advantage of watching his game, he also took a stroll around the starry sky world. It can be regarded as giving parents a vaccination first, so that it will be easier to take them away from Azure Star in the future. Liu Sheng thought about it, and immediately issued an order to the White Hole Shuttle. Target Jupiter main star area. There is another event waiting for him. At the same time, in the main star area of the sub-Jupiter region, on the pier of a certain circumsatellite, a light blue spaceship landed gracefully, the temple. A group of people stepped out of the spaceship. There are a lot of things these few days, and I have to go out tomorrow, so I will throw in 2 chapters in the early morning. Finally, please ask for some monthly tickets and flowers, thank you everyone too. 489 The Azure Star Turtle Tour Group 1. The leader was a middle-aged man in his 40s, with thick eyebrows and big eyes, black hair, and bronze complexion. The middle-aged man has a solid temperament, and his actions are a little unnatural. Looks awkward, cringe, tense. But in a pair of wide-open eyes, there is more curiosity. It looked very much like the country folks when they first came to town. Is this the advanced civilization planet? Liu Dahai's face showed deep amazement, and everything around Liu Li was impacting his visual nerves all the time. The people behind him were no better than him. Like Liu Haihei, after accepting the highest level genetic optimization of the Blue Star National Transformation Program, Zheng Yufen is also a full decade younger than before. Although she has never practiced martial arts, her and Liu Dahai's physical fitness is comparable to that of ordinary 6th level warriors. Before the rise of Wei's 443 Blue Star Martial Arts, he was already considered an out-and-out Superman. A pair of hands for shopping and cooking are enough to tear tigers and leopards apart. What kind of material is this dress made of? It's really nice, and it's really comfortable to wear. Zheng Yufen looked at her newly put-on combat uniform and muttered non-stop. Dong Qingxiu stood beside her. After being promoted to Grandmaster and receiving genetic optimization, she was also much younger, like a girl in her early 20s. Dong Qingxiu was wearing a light blue combat uniform, and Tu Rong was stunning. She walked out of Azure Star for the first time and was shocked by the busy scene in front of Starry Sky Pier, but she didn't show it much. How do you say that she is also the immortal countess now? Well, that's what the aliens who have been to the Azure planet call her. Before coming here, Dong Qingxiu kept telling herself in her heart that she must never lose Liu Sheng's face outside. Liu Qinghe, who was dressed in a light pink battle suit, was holding a cosmic communicator and slapping around wildly, making all kinds of exclamation sounds like wow, wow. From time to time. Every time she takes a shot, she has to lower her head and operate quickly for a while. That was posting and replying to various awesome 666 comments in moments. This time the spaceship traveled across light years, Liu Qinghe had almost hundreds of moments. It's also thanks to the fact that she is the younger sister of the martial god of the Azure Star, and the things she posted are really awesome. Otherwise, with her speed of swiping the screen of moments, she would have been blocked 1,000 times. Those who sell cosmetics and fruits in the circle of friends are not as diligent as she is. After that came Lin Zhenjiu, Tan's Hongaiu, Cumberland, and Harold. Harold, this guy, has been so happy in recent years. Since Liu Sheng rose to prominence, Harold had been Liu Sheng's lackey for a period of time because he had a relationship with Liu Sheng. So much so that the martial saints on the Blue Star each gave him 3 points. Harold himself often bragged about it. It's usually like this: Harold with his chin raised slightly, with 3 points of pride, 3 points of disdain, 3 points of calmness, and 1 point of high spirits on his face, began to say lightly. I think back then, when I was hanging out with Mr. Lu. Just like that, Harold, who was almost at the bottom among the Azure Star Martial Saints, also got the opportunity to walk out of the Azure Star and visit the advanced civilization planet. It is such a person who formed the awesome Star High Civilization Planet Earth Turtle Tour Group. A group of people got off the spaceship. There were already several people waiting respectfully at the pier. The leader is a diplomat from the 8th planet of the Yamo main star region with greenish skin and 2 short tentacles on his head, as well as his subordinates. As soon as the spaceship that Azure Star and his party were on landed, the diplomat immediately greeted them with a warm and respectful attitude. Welcome all distinguished people to the 8th planet. On behalf of the Sub-Jupiter Federation, I would like to extend my most sincere and warm welcome to all of you. Thanks to the translation function of the advanced combat uniform worn on the body, the team of Wulangxing can understand the diplomat's words. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. The whole group was flattered, especially Lu Haihei's family, who experienced the feeling of being a leader on an alien planet for the first time in his life. Lu Qinghe quietly took out the communicator to shoot at the diplomat, and said to the camera while taking pictures, "Have you seen it, brothers? This alien with a very brave complexion is sent by their sub-Jupiter federal government to welcome us people." The people of Azure Star and the 8th Planet Diplomatic Corps gathered together, and the scene was quite friendly and harmonious. After learning about the attitude of the Diplomatic Corps towards their party, everyone on Azure Star gradually relaxed their nervousness. This trip is really worth it. After I go back, I have to talk to my old friends about what a high-level civilized planet looks like. Lu Haihei said with a smile. The faces of the people on the blue star next to him showed deep apprehension, and most of them had the same mentality as Lu Haihei. But Zheng Yufen said, "I don't know where Xiao Sheng is now, whether we can see him today. It's been almost a year. 3 cosmic months, converted to the time of the blue star, isn't it almost a year?" Dong Qingxiu comforted at the side, "Mom, I just talked to Lu Sheng on the phone, and he said that he has already rushed over here. It will probably only take a few days." Zheng Yufen nodded, then patted Dong Qingxiu's hand guiltily, and sighed, "I've wronged you, Qingxiu." Dong Qingxiu shook her head, but did not speak. At this time, the diplomat leading the way smiled and said, "My lords, we have set up a sumptuous banquet on the main planet of Yamu to clean up the dust for everyone. I will take you to the main star now." As he said that, the diplomat ordered to go down and let his subordinates quickly drive over the aircraft that had been prepared long ago. Alien spacecraft are not allowed to land directly on the main star of Yamu. No matter who comes to the main star area by spaceship, they need to transit on the top 10 satellite planets. After finishing the order, the diplomat put on a professional, enthusiastic, and polite smile, and continued to talk to everyone on Azure Star. "But I couldn't help sighing secretly. I don't know what the background of this pedestrian is. No matter in terms of appearance, temperament, or strength, they can be regarded as mediocre, just ordinary standard human race." But the superiors solemnly ordered him to receive this pedestrian with the highest standard of 1.4. From the inside and outside meaning of the foreign minister's words, if it weren't for the fact that there are too many big shots in the sub-Jupiter region recently, he would not be busy. He probably had to come to receive these people in person. The diplomat was thinking about it, when suddenly there was a violent roar above his head. Boom! Call! An incomparably huge black spaceship landed on this starry sky pier. The spaceship landed violently, setting off gusts of wind, which caused commotion and exclamations among the crowd on the pier. The diplomat reached out and grabbed the 2 small tentacles on his head, and stared at a certain mark on the hull of the spaceship for a while. Suddenly his face changed drastically, and he secretly said, "Oops! Can't stand it anymore, sleep, sorry." 490 The Blood-Stained Wolf Clan, a photo sparked an interstellar dispute. 1/5. A scarlet wolf head pattern is engraved on the outer shell of the spaceship. The spaceship of the Adrit blood-striped wolf family from the Silverstone sector. The diplomat recognized the origin of the spaceship, the two green tentacles on his head trembled rapidly, and cold sweat was about to fall. Didn't you say that you will arrive in the afternoon? Why is it so much earlier? This is troublesome. The Adrit blood-striped wolf family from the Silverstone Star region inherits the ancient Starry Sky Lord family, and has great influence in the Silverstone Star region, even comparable to some Starry Sky Earl families. Among the key invitation list of this interstellar genius martial arts exchange competition. The key is: the family's reception work is also the responsibility of diplomats. But now the group of distinguished guests on hand has not been received yet, and the other party has already arrived. The ones that were still landing on the same pier happened to bump into each other. This is embarrassing. Where is the aircraft? Bring the aircraft over here. The diplomat frantically urged his men. Now he can only think about sending away the distinguished guests from Azure Star first, and then go to receive the members of Lord Blood-Striped Wolf's family. By the stars, keep Yuichi safe. The diplomat secretly pinched the sweat from his forehead. Hey, this spaceship is about to catch up to the size of several Beihai City stadiums. Liu Haihei looked at the slowly landing spaceship in front of him and sighed in surprise. It's so grand. Wei Langxing and his team stood in front of the huge spaceship with the Scarlet Wolf's head printed on it, amazed. The hatch of the spaceship opened, and a large number of people came out of the spaceship. These people are majestic, generally more than 3 meters tall, wearing black and red combat uniforms, and holding long guns. Each one has a cold temperament, like an elite warrior in the starry sky. Surrounded by these fighters, several people strode out of the spaceship. The height of these people is slightly shorter, more than 2 meters tall. Wearing dark red, patterned, ancient armor full of alien style. The face and hands are covered with dark blue mane of the beast, the pupils are dark gold, and the appearance is quite strange. So handsome. Liu Qinghe, who was in the Azure Star team, let out a low cry, took out the communicator and clicked and clapped wildly. It's not just Liu Qinghe. The imposing appearance of the blood-striped wolf family made many people in Wei Langxing's party couldn't help taking out their mobile phones to take pictures quietly. It didn't take long to shoot, and the actions of a few people attracted the attention of everyone on the spaceship. The few blood-striped wolf clansmen who were slowly walking down from the spaceship saw the actions of Liu Qinghe and the others. Their dark golden pupils flickered, and a strange syllable came out of their mouths. Immediately after. Ah! The guards of the blood-striped wolf family on both sides of the spaceship raised their heads together, and howled like wolves. It's so handsome! Holding the communicator in his hand, Liu Qinghe touched his fist excitedly. This kind of shocking scene can't be made in the movies of Azure Star, so it can be seen in the starry sky. Post it on moments later, it will definitely be another shocking broadcast. But before Liu Qinghe was excited, the smile on her face gradually subsided. Because she saw. In the camera screen of the communicator, the group of 3-meter-high blood-striped wolf warriors turned their heads to look at her in unison. He was stared at by hundreds of pairs of oily green wolf eyes at the same time. And every strength is more than 10,000 times stronger than that of Liu Qinghe. Liu Qinghe's hair stood up all over, and the communicator in his hand shook violently, almost falling to the ground. Then, something worse happened. A group of blood-striped wolf warriors came towards everyone on Azure Star in a threatening manner. Liu Qinghe's pretty face quickly turned pale, and she put down the communicator abruptly. Intuition told her. It looks like she's got into trouble again. Now arrange for the VIPs to board the aircraft, and make sure to send them to the reception area of the main star. The diplomats are making all the arrangements and are ready to greet Wei Langxing and his party to board the car. But when he turned his head and looked, the 2 tentacles on his forehead suddenly stretched straight. Wow, the soldiers of the blood-striped wolf clan are surrounding Azure Star and his party, pointing their spears at them, as if they are about to strike in the next second. How did this come about? The diplomat glanced at the mobile phone and communicator in the hands of Wei Langxing and his party, and immediately understood. Damn! I forgot about this. Star nobles from different star regions and families have more or less unique hobbies and taboos. This is also the point that their diplomats need to pay attention to the most. Many things that seem normal to outsiders are big things in the eyes of certain ethnic families. For example, the blood-striped wolf family in the Silverstone Star region. The most annoying thing is being photographed. They stubbornly believed that this was an act of great disrespect to them. Because of this taboo, the blood-striped wolf family had disputes with many media, families, and forces, and there were even bloodshed incidents. Before the reception, the foreign minister also specifically told him to pay attention to this point. I didn't expect to make a mistake in my busy schedule, and the most worrying thing still happened. At this moment, the soldiers of the blood-striped wolf clan are ready to forcibly escort Wei Langxing and his party away. The diplomat rushed forward and loudly explained to several big figures of the blood-striped wolf family in the common language of the universe, but the effect was minimal. He is a small diplomat, and people don't take him seriously at all. The diplomat was sweating profusely, gritted his teeth, and had no choice but to make a communication call with his superior. After a brief report on the situation here, the foreign minister over there just replied, "Hold on, I'll be right over," and then hung up the phone hastily. Ah! The howling of wolves kept ringing at the pier. A group of blood-striped wolf fighters detained Azure Star and his party by the Starry Sky Pier, communicating in ancient ethnic languages. The diplomat turned pale with fright after listening for a while. Want to wash away the insults received with human heads and blood. The meaning of the blood-striped wolf clan is to directly behead Azure Star and his party. God, what is this all about? The diplomat was so anxious that his feet almost stamped out of the ground. At this time, Wei Langxing and his party also noticed that something was wrong. But the strongest among them, Wang Zhao's, is only level 9, not even the weakest fighter in the blood-stained wolf clan. Coupled with the language barrier, there is nothing that can be done at all. Just when the incident was about to escalate and the diplomat was about to die. Ugh! Two figures suddenly appeared above the pier. An old man wearing a red robe with 2 golden buds embroidered on the left chest of the robe. The other was a chubby middle-aged man with a few drops of cold sweat on his forehead. The diplomat's pupils shrunk slightly, and he was stunned for half a second, but his heart that had been hanging around quickly let go. Lord Chancellor Dunlop. Also, his boss, the foreign minister. I didn't expect that even the speaker was alarmed. The diplomat wiped off his sweat and let out a long sigh of relief. Fortunately, nothing will happen now. But it didn't take long for the diplomat to see a scene that he will never forget. The leave note sent yesterday was blocked, speechless. 491 What is the identity and origin of this group of people? 2/5. After Dunlop appeared, he had a brief conversation with the leader of the blood-striped wolf clan. Soon, the pupils of the blood-stained wolf patriarch, who was as majestic as a demon wolf, unruly and cruel, shrank severely a few times. The coldness in the dark golden eyes melted quickly. Then howled shortly. Soon, all the blood-stained wolf warriors who had surrounded Azure Star and his party with fierce eyes all stopped. Immediately, they scattered, biting the sharp spear in their hands. Boom! A warrior of the blood-striped wolf clan knelt down on one knee. Then came the second, third, fourth. Bang bang bang! A group of blood-patterned wolf clan warriors all knelt on the ground, and their knees smashed the solid ground of the Starry Sky Code into one sinkhole after another. Immediately afterwards, the 3 leaders of the blood-striped wolf clan all walked up to the Azure Star and the group. He solemnly spoke in the common language of the universe, "Dear friends, please forgive our ignorance and rudeness, and please accept the highest apology from the blood-striped wolf family." As they spoke, the 3 of them put their right hands on their left chests and bowed together. The diplomat who witnessed this scene was stunned, and his eyeballs almost protruded from his eyes. He originally thought that Speaker Dunlop would come over and ask Azure Star and his party to apologize to the Blood-Striped Wolf family. The members of the Blood-Striped Wolf family may be able to let this matter go for the sake of Speaker Dunlop. Where was 977? The development of the matter was completely opposite to what he had guessed and expected. It was not Azure Star and his party who apologized, but several nobles from the Blood Wolf family. Moreover, it was from the Blood-Striped Wolf family. Supreme courtesy. The diplomat was so shocked that his mind was buzzing, and then he saw a scene that stunned him. The nobles of the Blood-Striped Wolf family probably felt that their apology was not sincere enough, so they exchanged a few words with the foreign minister next to them. Then, the three big guys quickly walked to the group of Wulangzing, and with 6 big hands together, they found all the people in front of them, and they were close together. He also greeted a few blood-striped wolf warriors around him. Holala, a group of 3-meter-tall fighters also gathered around. After finishing all this, the foreign minister took out a professional camera, pointed the lens at the stunned-faced Azure Star and his party and the blood-striped wolf tribe, and shouted in the awkward Azure Star language, "Eggplant! Stupid dash!" The crisp sound of the camera shutter being pressed reached the diplomat's ears. The diplomat's mouth was wide open, and he froze in place, his face full of bewilderment. Big group photo. Let the most taboo, blood-striped wolf tribe take the initiative to take a group photo together? It's too dreamy, I swear, I will be on the headlines of the Yamua Federal Declaration tomorrow. The diplomat looked at the Azure Star and his party surrounded by the blood-striped wolves like a moon, and murmured, "What kind of identities do these people have? It's too unbelievable. It looks like everyone is having a good time." Inside the White Hole Shuttler spacecraft, Lu Sheng was browsing Lu Qinghe's circle of friends. It's Lu Qinghe's face-to-face selfie with a few humanoid aliens. Ka took a dozen photos. Not only Lu Qinghe's, but also parents. Everyone had a good laugh. Those humanoid guys even smiled like huskies. It also looks like a husky, with a hairy face. Have you made friends with alien races so quickly? Lu Sheng relaxed. What worries him the most is that his parents will not get used to it and be unhappy after leaving the planet. Judging from the current situation, he still underestimated his parents' ability to accept new things. With the level of technology in the sub-Jupiter region, it is very easy for parents to live 1,000 years. Let them practice martial arts even if they have nothing to do, so they can live longer. It is the saddest and most painful thing in the world to have a child who wants to be raised but not to be loved. Lu Sheng didn't want such a regret to happen to him. He even considered finding time to use his original power to deduce and create a life-extending martial art for his parents. Lu Sheng stayed on the spaceship for a few days, and at the speed of a white hole shuttle, he quickly arrived at the Yama main star area. After arriving, it was personally picked up by the high level of the Sub-Jupiter Federation. Speaker of the House of Representatives Dunlop, Secretary of Law Enforcement, Director of Front. There are also some personnel from the Ministry of Municipalities and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Came back. When Lu Sheng got off the White Hole shuttle, Dunlop stepped forward, with a smile on his face as an elder looking at his outstanding junior. The Minister of Law Enforcement and the Director General of the Front of the Yamua Star region had similar expressions. The golden buns in the entire sub-Jupiter region are not just talking about Speaker. Lu Sheng greeted several high-level personnel. It came just in time. Dunlop smiled and said, "The Interstellar Martial Arts Talent Exchange Contest will start in a few days, and you are the protagonist. I will tell you in detail about some matters related to the contest. Now go check out the venue." Dunlop beckoned him to board an aircraft as wide as a small spaceship, and then a group of people flew towards the starry sky. On the way, the Minister of Law Enforcement took the initiative to say hello to Lu Sheng, Xingju Liao, the third-level Star Sky wanted criminal jointly wanted by 8 star regions, and his Star Thief group. "Thanks to you this time, Lu Sheng. In the past few days, I have received no less than 200 letters of thanks from different constellations in different star regions. Before Lu Sheng could speak, the eyes of the frontline commander and Dunlop lit up, and they quickly said, "Oh? Lu Sheng also wiped out a group of star thieves? I remember Xingju Liao is at level 11, and he has been to the different space battlefield, even though he became a deserter later. But the strength cannot be underestimated." The head of the law enforcement department laughed, looked at Lu Sheng with a smile, and said, "Who says it's not, Xingju Liao, the strength of the peak of the 11th level. The Black Place Star District once dispatched 3 11th level law enforcement officers to round him up but failed. It turned out that under our Lu Sheng, not even a single body hair left, hee. The way Dunlop and the frontline chief looked at Lu Sheng immediately changed. It was a combination of surprise and amazement, and there was no more satisfaction. "Yeah, okay, haha." Dunlop, who has always been stern, couldn't help laughing out loud. Now there are rumors that although Lu Sheng is an immortal bloodline, his strength is not very strong. This competition may be stolen by others, saying that our sub-Jupiter region is shooting itself in the foot. When the competition starts and Lu Sheng's true strength is revealed, I'd like to see how they report it. The head of the front line also said with emotion, 10th level can be strong to kill 11th level. Is this the potential of the immortal bloodline? Really? The iron-blooded commander-in-chief of the front line said really, but couldn't find a suitable word to express his amazement. Lu Sheng didn't pay attention to their reputation, but was curious about the different space battlefield mentioned in the words of the Minister of Law Enforcement. I couldn't help asking, what is the space battlefield? Can the law enforcement chief explain it in detail? 492 On behalf of the entire sub-Jupiter region, thank you, Lu Sheng. 3. The chief law enforcement officer thought for a while, nodded and said, anyway, you will go sooner or later. It's okay to know in advance. The different space battlefield is the gap between this universe and the other universe, the space derived after the collision. It is also the main battlefield for the confrontation between this universe and another world. Many powerhouses, geniuses, and monsters in the starry sky will choose to go to the different space battlefield to hone themselves. Therefore, there is also a saying that the alien space battlefield is the cradle of the strong. Isn't it the gap space? It was the second battlefield that he had learned from the dream space. Lu Sheng immediately knew what kind of existence the so-called alien space battlefield was. However, Lu Sheng has always had a curiosity, so he took this opportunity to ask together. Lu Sheng expressed doubts, and asked the law enforcement chief, I have always been curious about the source of the alien beast invasion, can the law enforcement chief explain it to me? The chief law enforcement officer smiled and said, it's just some other universe that just happened to collide with our universe. It's not intrusive or not intrusive. Sooner or later they will be completely expelled, and even a counterattack is not out of the question. Is it just another universe? Lu Sheng's eyes flickered slightly, but his heart sank. It can be seen from the law enforcement officer's answer. They looked at the alien beast invasion very easily, and even said something like counterattack. So the current situation in the high-level battlefield is quite optimistic, and even our side has the upper hand. Is it because the level of the 12th level law enforcement officer is too low, or is it that all the powerful people in this universe don't know? The world represented by the alien beasts is not at all the single universe they imagined, but a collection of the dark sides of countless universes. The source of extreme evil may be invading many universes at the same time, and the invasion of our universe is not too strong, so it gave them such an illusion. By the time I react, it may be too late. Lu Sheng was a little worried for a while. 7 years later, the Serpentis Galaxy is about to face the invasion of the Dark Lords, and these people are afraid that they will be taken aback. Thinking of this, Lu Sheng couldn't help but ask again, does the Chief Law Enforcement Officer know what a Dark Lord is? Dark Lord. The chief law enforcement officer looked startled, shook his head and said, I don't know. Dunlop didn't speak, but the Director General of the Yamui Star region suddenly said, Lu Sheng, where did you hear the word Lord of Darkness? For this problem, Lu Sheng had already planned to deal with it. He said without thinking, I once sensed inexplicable consciousness fluctuations from another world in the depths of my home planet, which was invaded by alien beasts. There is a reference to the Dark Lord in it. Hearing Lu Sheng's answer, the head of the front line's eyes flickered, and he didn't know what he was thinking. The chief of law enforcement asked curiously, Old Ao, do you know what the Lord of Darkness is? Dunlop also looked at the front director. The front commander of the Yamui Star district is named Ayin, a middle-aged man with blue hair, a square face, and thick eyebrows like a pair of swords. At this time, Ayin's expression was slightly condensed, and he said in a deep voice, I also heard the term Dark Lord when I was in the different space battlefield. Lord of Darkness is a respectful title for a strong man of a certain level in the universe of another world, corresponding to our universe. It is almost equivalent to a strong man of level 16. Level 16. Dunlop and the law enforcement officer all showed expressions of emotion on their faces, and even Lu Sheng's pupils shrank severely. The 16th level and the 6th level of Tian are equivalent to the strength of the mentor Yang Yizhu. Yang Yizhu is the master of the star field. The star field is a collection of countless galaxies. The indescribable shadow that dug the wall in the depths of the Azure Star Sea abyss is level 16? Lu Sheng couldn't believe it. Both Dunlop and the law enforcement officer couldn't believe it. Level 16. The chief law enforcement officer said, Old Ao, are you kidding me? Can a powerhouse at level 16 appear in a place like Lu Sheng's home planet? Ao Yin shook his head and said, it may not be the real Lord of Darkness. Maybe it's just a life from another universe who knows the Lord of Darkness name. But the level will definitely not be low. The 16th level can be the master of a large star field. Generally, the 11th level, and the 2-level powerhouse don't even know that there is a martial arts level 16 in the universe. Ayin said with a solemn expression, anyway, if this matter is true, then it deserves our attention. Lu Sheng, if you give me the exact location where you found the fluctuation of consciousness, I want to go to your home planet in person. Lu Sheng's eyes lit up, and he simply said, no problem. If the indescribable shadow in the depths of the abyss catacombs can be discovered by Ayin and reported to the top, it will attract the attention of the high-level officials of the Sky Snake Galaxy, and even the high-level executives of the star field to which the Sky Snake Galaxy belongs. It couldn't have been better. In that way, before the arrival of the 7-year period, the surrounding star regions will be prepared, which will definitely reduce a lot of losses and save a lot of money. But it is very difficult for Lu Sheng to do this with his own strength. There is no need to wait to turn around. Lu Sheng immediately told the front director in detail about the indescribable shadow in the Azure Star Sea Abyss catacombs. The more he talked about Ayin, the more frightened he became, and he paid more attention to this matter. 0 seeking flowers. 0. The two were chatting, and suddenly Dunlop said something out of the blue. Here we are. Lu Sheng raised his head and realized what Dunlop was talking about. The venue for the Interstellar Martial Arts Talent Exchange competition has arrived. Go and see. Dunlop beckoned Lu to take out the aircraft. Lu Sheng nodded, and followed Dunlop and others out of the aircraft and into the starry sky. Without the visual obstruction of the aircraft, it is possible to truly perceive the magnificence and shock of this test field. The entire site is surrounded by more than 1,000 asteroids. Pointing to the asteroids around, Dunlop explained, they were all specially moved here to watch the battlefield. Lu Sheng stared at the asteroids that were not much smaller than the blue stars, and his tongue was dark. How many people can this accommodate? Dunlop said with a smile, all the tickets for the star battle seats have been sold out 2 months ago. 0. We originally only planned to prepare 300 spectator planets, but we added them 4 times in a row before adding them to the current 1500. In addition to the planet spectator positions, there are also more advanced spaceship mooring spectator positions, small meteorite spectator positions, etc. In addition, a large number of participants and spectators brought consumption from various industries such as tourism, accommodation, catering, and entertainment. The Ministry of Finance roughly estimates that the economic growth brought about by this contest will reach an unprecedented peak. Dunlop looked at the huge asteroid spectator seats in front of him, as well as the Sub-Jupiter Federation staff who were busy shuttling back and forth in the star field, making final preparations for the competition. His face was full of red light and he was full of energy. Enough to be worth the sum of the tax revenues of our Sub-Jupiter region for the past 50 years. Liu Sheng was dumbfounded and numb. Dunlop calmed down his agitated emotions a little bit, patted Liu Sheng on the shoulder with a smile, and said, "On behalf of the Federation of Yamua Star Region, thank you, Liu Sheng. It can be said that you have driven the economic development of our entire star region entirely by yourself. Other star regions can't do it if they want to emulate, because they don't have a second genius with an immortal life physique. Moreover, since this competition has been held once, there will definitely be a second, third, and fourth time. It can go on forever." Speaking of this, Dunlop's heart, which had just calmed down just now, became excited again. He looked at Liu Sheng, solemnly, and said word by word, "Our Sub-Jupiter region, this time it's real, take off on the spot." 493 Seed Player, Jing Long. 1. Crime is also at an all-time high. The law enforcement chief interrupted abruptly. Dunlop waved his hand and said with a nonchalant expression, "It doesn't matter." Immediately afterwards, Dunlop took Liu Sheng to check the competition arena. The arena in the preliminary round is just a specific area in space. The two sides will fight within the specified area. Once they exceed the rules, they will lose. When it came time for the rematch, the platform was replaced with a solid platform made of meteorite and high-strength alloy. Semifinals and finals. It is arranged directly on the asteroid. The registration criteria for this interstellar martial arts genius exchange contest is to be under 1000 years old and above 10th level in strength. Liu Sheng happened to be stuck on this threshold. As the number 1 seed player announced by the organizer, Liu Sheng can directly enter the semi-finals without the preliminary and rematch. It's also a privilege. 460. Besides you, there are a few other talented contestants in our Sub-Jupiter Federation election. Let me take you to meet them. Dunlop beckoned Liu Sheng to board the aircraft, which passed through the venue and stopped next to a white dwarf near the venue. Liu Sheng narrowed his eyes and looked up at the white dwarf. "I saw 7 or 8 people sitting or standing, and 3 of them were making friends. The 2 besieged one of them. The besieged was a tall man wearing a new black combat uniform with shoulder pads. With a majestic short beard, deep-set eye sockets, and tight lips, he gives people an aura of calm and prestige. He held 2 strange-shaped long knives, one wide and one narrow, like 2 crescent moons. With the dancing of his arms, he cut out criss-crossing gorgeous arcs of light in the void. There is a long black line under each arc, which is the trace of the void being completely cut, reaching the destructive power of breaking the limit once. The 2 people who fought against him, a man and a woman, were also 11th level powerhouses. Under the double knives of the short-bearded man, he has no power to fight back, and can only support it with all his strength, like a boat that will capsize at any time in a stormy sea. Jing Long. Dunlop introduced the other party's identity information to Liu Sheng. This year is more than 900 years old, the strength of the peak of the 11th level, and also has the extraordinary life physique of the B-Moon level. He has not yet used his extraordinary physique, and his strength is very strong, almost comparable to the 12th level. You can communicate more in private. Liu Sheng didn't speak, and Dunlop had already summoned everyone who was practicing on the white dwarf. The three people who were fighting stopped, and those who were sitting on the ground stood up one after another. My Lord Speaker, the law enforcement officer, and a group of people came to the front and greeted Dunlop and others one after another. Then they all set their eyes on Liu Sheng. These gazes are full of scrutiny, and there is also some eagerness to try. I'm sure everyone knows this one, Liu Sheng. Dunlop briefly introduced Liu Sheng to several people. Just after saying a few words, Jinglong, the leader among them, suddenly said, I've heard about the name of immortality for a long time. I finally got to see it today. Why don't we compare it to learn how powerful the immortal bloodline is? As soon as these words were spoken, the field fell silent. Everyone looked at Liu Sheng in unison. Liu Sheng looked calm and asked, Are you challenging me? Jinglong's eyes flickered, and she slowly pulled out the double knives she had hidden before, and said with a sneer, You don't dare to. The atmosphere in the arena was like a string, quietly tense, and the smell of gunpowder permeated little by little. The three of Dunlop didn't intend to stop them, and even took 2 steps back. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. But in the next second, the string quickly relaxed. Speaker, these days I want to spend time with my family and not participate in the training camp. Liu Sheng said to Dunlop without looking at Jinglong. Dunlop froze for a moment, nodded quickly and said, Okay, then I'll take you back now. Trouble Speaker. Liu Sheng and Dunlop turned and left, leaving only Jinglong and others standing behind them. This kid definitely won't dare. As soon as Liu Sheng and the others walked away, someone couldn't help but speak. Immortal level, even if it is an immortal level, it is only a 10th level now. A woman with short black hair who had previously fought against Jinglong said with a disdainful sneer, How can I compare to Lord Jinglong? Really? The difference in a big realm is not so easy to smooth out. What's more, Lord Binglong is not just promoted to 10 levels. Lord Jinglong, don't worry, if you fight with this Liu Sheng, we will definitely be on your side. That is required. These people chattered in one go, each one filled with righteous indignation, constantly belittling Liu Sheng and exalting Jinglong. Jinglong looked indifferent, and abruptly drew out the saber. The moment he drew the saber, his whole body burst into brilliant white light, and this white light blessed the 2 sabers in his hands. The double knife crescent quickly filled up, crossed the void, and left 2 black and white streaks in the void, and the white was mixed with some black deep knife marks. More than 2 times limit breaking, close to 3 times breaking limit. This is Jinglong's true strength. The faces of all 11th level geniuses were moved, and they looked at Jinglong with awe. I hope he won't meet me in the competition. Jinglong retracted the knife, turned around with a cold expression, and quickly flew towards the white dwarf not far away. A crowd of geniuses watched Jinglong leave. When Jinglong's figure was completely gone, the awe and reverence on their faces quickly faded away in less than a second. Look at each other and communicate with each other. Liu Sheng is back. Are you guys going to visit? Nonsense, immortal level bloodline, sooner or later you will leave the star region, and step towards the star system or even the star level big shot. If you don't build a good relationship now, you will have no chance in the future. Then let's go together. 2 people have to stay down to stabilize Jinglong and cover everyone, so that he won't find out. Good. Jinglong is also brainless. The short-haired woman who flattered Jinglong the most fiercely before said with a sneer, The aptitude is 2 levels behind Liu Sheng, and I still want to fight against him. Even if the strength is not as good as him now, pinching him in the future is still a joke. This man is too stupid to be followed by us. Really? Others nodded in agreement with 0.2. A group of people quickly made a decision, and then divided into 2 groups. One group quickly left in another direction, and the other group returned to the White Dwarf training field. As he landed, he renewed his expressions of admiration and awe on his face, complimenting him loudly. The aircraft stopped in a certain area of Yamazu. Liu Sheng saw that there was a luxurious starry sky villa underneath, and he swept his mental power, and found that his parents and his family were all inside. My heart suddenly relaxed. Then we won't go down, you have a good rest and prepare well. Dunlop patted Liu Sheng on the shoulder, and said meaningfully, Liu Sheng, the rewards for the top 10 in this competition are jointly given by the 12-star regions, and they are very generous. If you are sure, try your best to fight for it. Liu Sheng nodded, thanked Dunlop, and flew down quickly. 494 Leave something else for you, too. Xiao Sheng wants us to live here in the future, he bought a house here. Eating and lodging are good, it's so good that I can't even dream of it. Hey, but I still feel uncomfortable and want to come back. What, it's already August for you. Didn't we just come out for less than a month? Let me tell Xiao Sheng, next time I will bring your whole family to play too. When Liu Sheng walked into the villa, he saw his mother Yufen was video chatting with several old sisters in the living room. Seeing Liu Sheng come back, Mother Zheng Yufen yelled ah and stood up from the sofa suddenly. Then quickly ran towards him. When did you come back? Why didn't you say hello in advance? Zheng Yufen was still the same as before, looking him up and down carefully, wishing to count every hair on his body. Thin and tanned. Zheng Yufen babbled. Have it. Liu Sheng touched his cheek, and with a thought, the floor of the living room was like water waves, and a full-length mirror emerged from it in front of him. The figure in the mirror was about 2 meters tall, with black hair and black pupils, and an indescribably majestic appearance. Although Liu Sheng has restrained the aura of his whole body to the extreme, no matter he appears in anyone's sight, both will be like a piece of red-hot iron, a nail, firmly nailing the other party's sight, making it impossible for people to look away. The hair is a bit long. Liu Sheng found that his hair had almost covered his ears. Looking back, it seemed that he hadn't cut his hair for a long time. Generally speaking, compared with before the retreat, there are indeed some changes. But the change is not too big, at least my mother can still recognize herself. Liu Sheng told Dong Qingxiu before entering the door. While talking to Mom, Dong Qingxiu, Liu Dahai and Liu Qinghe had already come out of their respective rooms. In terms of changes, the ones who have changed the most are Liu Haihei and Zheng Yufen. The two people in their 50s now look no different from those in their 30s and 40s, and their bodies are still gradually getting younger, and even a dozen teeth have been replaced. The family reunited after a long absence, and everyone had smiles on their faces. Mother Zheng Yufen made dinner as usual, but it was much more convenient here than on Azure Star. Even if my mother cooks in person, with the assistance of home artificial intelligence, it only takes tens of minutes to cook a table of meals. Why? At the dinner table, Zheng Yufen put a piece of braised pork in Liu Sheng's bowl, and sighed, "It's good here, but I don't have any acquaintances, and usually there's no one to talk to except your father." That is. Liu Qinghe also muttered, "I kind of miss my classmates, and the Malatang at the school gate." Even Liu Haihei, who has always been the most supportive of Liu Sheng, sipped the wine that was sent from an unknown planet, and asked cautiously, "Xiao Sheng, we will not really settle here in the future, right?" With the chopsticks in her hand, she looked at Dong Qingxiu beside her, and asked softly, "What do you think?" Dong Qingxiu shook her head and said in a low voice, "I'll listen to you." Liu Sheng thought about it, and said to his family, "It's not necessary to settle down here, and another planet is also fine. When the time comes, I will ask people to bring all the things on the Blue Star, parents, your colleagues, friends, and Qinghe's school, the Malatang at the school gate, as long as you want to bring them all together. Brother, why not just live in Azure Star?" Liu Qinghe said something. The others looked at him equally curiously. Liu Sheng was silent. It's hard for him to say that the Blue Star will be destroyed in a few years, it would be troublesome to explain, and it would cause unnecessary panic. He could only explain, after all, there is an invasion of alien beasts on Azure Planet, and it will eventually develop into a pure battlefield star. Anyway, it will have to be moved sooner or later, so it's better to move it sooner. Liu Haihei and the others nodded thoughtfully, not knowing whether they understood or not. Liu Sheng changed the topic and said with a smile, I will accompany you these 2 days, watch the game, and also take a good look around the surrounding planets. Great! Liu Qinghe exclaimed happily, it's been a long time since I went out to play with my brother. Liu Haihei and Zheng Yufen also showed smiles on their faces. Yes, a family outing. It's been a long time. Into the night. The environment outside the villa area simulates the night of blue stars. In a certain room of the villa, Liu Sheng was sitting shirtless on the bed, while Dong Qingxiu in suspender pajamas was helping him cut his hair. Chikacha. Every strand of Liu Sheng's hair was black and crystal clear, as if it would glow when it fell on the floor. All right. Dong Qingxiu patted Liu Sheng on the shoulder, indicating that the haircut was over. Liu Sheng shook his head, feeling refreshed, then walked to the corner of the room to shower and rinse. When I was in the shower, I saw Dong Qingxiu lying on the floor, carefully picking up every strand of hair he had fallen out, and carefully putting it into a small cloth bag, like a precious treasure. Liu Sheng's eyes moved slightly, and he asked, My wife, what are you doing? Dong Qingxiu concentrated on picking up the strands of hair. Without raising her head, she said, Every time you are away from home now, I have some of your hair by my side, as a thought. Dong Qingxiu said, gathering the last strand of hair. Standing up contentedly, he smiled and said, Okay. When she raised her head, she saw that Liu Sheng had appeared beside her at some point, looking at her with shining eyes. What's wrong? Dong Qingxiu blinked. There was a primitive and wild light in Liu Sheng's eyes, and he lowered his voice and said, Honey, don't grow your hair anymore, I'll leave you something else. What? You'll know right away. Ah! This night, the golden crow is neck to neck, and the sun is shining. Dear viewers! Today, the long-awaited Interstellar Martial Arts Talent Exchange Contest involving 12-star regions has finally officially started. What you will see next are the most outstanding martial arts geniuses from the 12-star regions. What kind of brilliant sparks will these proud suns from different corners of the starry sky collide with each other? Please wait and see. Incomparably huge, on the holographic projection screen comparable to the size of a planet, a group of 893 handsome young men who can achieve unity in the aesthetics of most races in the starry sky are smiling and enthusiastic, explaining loudly. In the starry sky, countless spaceships, an aircraft shuttle and interweave. There are more than 1,000 spectator planets, and people are bustling with each other. A number of geniuses from different star regions entered the arena one after another, and the battle was imminent. A warm and noisy atmosphere spread within a tenth of a light year in the starry sky. Brother! The location here is good. Inside the spaceship White Hole Shuttle, Liu Qinghe pointed at a location that was very close to the test site and yelled loudly at Liu Sheng. Liu Sheng didn't bother to talk to her. Every area of this starry sky has long been divided by the organizer of the competition. An area is equivalent to a seat, and each seat costs money. Not where you want to stop. Oh! Liu Qinghe replied resentfully. Liu Sheng controlled the spaceship and parked in a designated area under the guidance of the natural staff. This is the spectator seat Dunlop specially reserved for him. The top spaceship is parked to watch the battle. Whether it is the view or what, it is the most perfect. The talent exchange competition is already in full swing, and as a seed player recommended to the semi-finals, Liu Sheng does not need to play in the first few days of the competition. So I took my family to watch the game together. Of course, Lin Zhenjiu and other martial saints from Azure Star were also brought along. Lin Zhenjiu and the others sat in Liu Sheng's White Hole Shuttle, all of them behaved well, as well behaved as children in the first class of kindergarten. 495 Are you motherless? 3. In fact, when it comes to changes, the ones who have changed the most are Lin Zhenjiao, the martial saints from Azure Star. It was only after they stepped out of the blue star that they truly realized how big the starry sky really is. 9th level, on the blue star can be called a martial saint, the god of the world. But when it comes to the starry sky, it's really nothing. There are 9 grades all over the street, and I met a taxi driver on the road, grade 9. I met a trash picker, level 5. Even if the dishes are not kept neatly in the restaurant, it is a level 9. When Lin Zhenjiao first came out of Azure Star, there was still a little pride and self-respect in his heart. After staying in the Yamo main star area for a few days, it has been ground clean by now. Everyone's mentality has undergone extremely huge changes. But in the end, what kind of change, good or bad, is not known. Sheng fully simulated the exterior scene of the spacecraft, and the console in the cockpit of the spacecraft, the instruments, and so on were all blurred immediately. The entire inner cabin becomes transparent, showing the scene of the outer starry sky in all directions at 365 degrees without dead ends. Stadium, audience, starry sky. The almost perfect sense of immersion deeply shocked everyone's hearts. Handsome. Lu King, he looked excitedly at the starry sky below his feet and above his head, and said to Lu Sheng, "It would be even better if we have fried chicken and coke now." Lu Sheng said casually, "If you want to eat, you can order it on the console." With that said, he asked for a bottle of coke himself. This kind of experience of sitting in the first row and watching the game while drinking coke is not too cool. Turning her head, she found Dong Qingxiu sitting on a chair with her legs crossed and her head down, not speaking. Lu Sheng asked with concern, "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" Dong Qingxiu nodded, but quickly said, "It's nothing, it should be fine in a while." Lu Sheng blamed himself a little, knowing that the things he left in Dong Qingxiu's body last night were too much and too strong, which made her unable to bear it. At this time, the starry sky outside the spacecraft lit up countless gorgeous fireworks. Looking up, Lu Sheng saw countless spaceships passing by in a row in space, leaving clusters of brilliant tail flames behind them. And this interstellar martial arts genius exchange competition has officially kicked off. One by one the preliminary contestants entered the arena. Before that, they had already completed the lottery, and they only needed to find their own arena and defeat their opponents to pass the first round of competition. Lu Sheng stretched out his mental power and swept it roughly. The total number of contestants in this round of preliminary rounds is no less than tens of millions, all of whom are at least martial arts level 10 or above. 12 star regions, less than 1,000 years old, tens of millions of 10th level. Lu Sheng didn't know whether the number was more or less. He just watched casually, and occasionally said a few words to Dong Qingxiu beside him. The rest of the people were quite excited to see it. The spacecraft has a focus adjustment function. As long as someone's eyes in the spacecraft focus on a certain position, the scene in that area will be quickly enlarged for better viewing. This is much more powerful than any 3D movie. Everyone in the spaceship basically sees themselves, discussing and exchanging from time to time. The preliminaries and the semi-finals will last for several days in total, until the last group of contestants has finished the competition, and the middle competition will not stop. After one group is over, the next group will be on the top immediately, and the audience is not afraid of being bored at all. Lu Sheng looked at it for a while and found that many contestants like to wear a kind of translucent combat glasses. It was the kind that Falday had when he first met Fal, and he could roughly estimate the opponent's combat power. He saw a lot, both of them were wearing combat glasses, and they came up to test each other's combat effectiveness first. "I feel that there is not much difference in combat effectiveness, so let's start fighting. If the gap is too large, the weaker side will generally have two choices. Either try a few tricks first, or simply admit defeat. Is this a style of martial arts competition in the stars?" Lu Sheng shook his head without commenting. Most people watched the game for half a day, but Liu Sheng felt that the time was almost up, so he proposed to take his parents to a nearby planet for dinner. Of course, Liu Dahai and the others had no objection, but Lin Zhenjiu and the other 4 Azure Star Martial Saints all proposed not to go and stayed here to watch the battle. This kind of opportunity is so rare. In the battle of the 10th level powerhouses from different races in the starry sky, how can I still care about eating, but I am sorry that I have lost a few pairs of eyes. Lin Zhenjiu said with a wry smile. Liu Sheng saw that several people all had burning eyes and fanatic expressions, so he didn't force them, and took his parents and the others away in the aircraft that came with the spaceship. There is a restaurant on the 3rd satellite planet that tastes really good, I'll take you to try it. Liu Sheng skillfully manipulated the aircraft, and flew Dong Qingxiu, her parents, and Liu Qinghe to the 3rd planet. Soon a few people arrived at their destination. Hunter Restaurant. Using the cosmic translator, Liu Qinghe read the name of the restaurant in front of him that looked like a big pineapple, and asked Liu Sheng curiously, "Brother, why is this restaurant called this name? It's so strange." Liu Sheng replied casually, "It is said that the home planet of the restaurant owner is full of food monsters, and the people on that planet practice martial arts mainly to hunt food and obtain a higher level of delicious enjoyment. So on their planet, martial arts experts are also called gourmet hunters. This restaurant was opened by a powerful gourmet hunter. It's incredible." Liu Qinghe couldn't help sighing. Liu Dahai and Zheng Yufen were like listening to a fairy tale, not knowing what expressions to make. Liu Sheng led his family into the restaurant, and a waiter immediately greeted them. He saluted respectfully and welcomed him. "Welcome Earl to the Hunter Restaurant, the small shop is full of splendor." The identification at the door has already passed Liu Sheng's information into the store, and his current ID card has registered his identity as the Immortal Earl. In a star area, no matter where the earls and nobles go, they can be regarded as the top big shots. Liu Sheng and his team quickly received the highest courtesy from the entire restaurant, and even the owner of the restaurant ran out of the back kitchen, Li Hao, to greet them. On the way to the top box, Liu Sheng did not expect to meet another old acquaintance. The majestic middle-aged man with a beard stood in front of Liu Sheng, squinted his eyes and looked at him with a sneer. "What a coincidence, Liu Sheng. Last time you rejected my discussion, there should be no reason this time." As he said that, the blade fire slowly slipped out of this guy's 2 cuffs. "It's Jinglong." Jinglong, a genius in the sub-Jupiter region, has seen it once on a white dwarf. Liu Sheng looked at this guy, his eyes gradually turned cold, and suddenly he took a step forward, approaching Jinglong's face, and said word by word, "Are you motherless?" "Well?" Jinglong was taken aback for a moment, and then became furious. "What did you say?" Liu Sheng looked directly into Jinglong's eyes, narrowed his eyes and said in a low voice, "Didn't you see that I was taking my family to dinner? If you really want to be beaten that much, wait for me at the door of the restaurant. When I finish eating, I will accompany you at any time." 496 As you wish, this will be a show-off battle. End 4. Jinglong stared blankly, and glanced behind Liu Sheng. Facing a few curious and kind faces, he smiled at him. "Xiao Sheng, is that your friend? If you are a friend, let's eat together." Jinglong's complexion changed, showing embarrassment and embarrassment. In the end, he took a sudden step back and said softly to Liu Sheng, "Sorry." Then he turned and walked away quickly. Liu Sheng stared at Jinglong's back, his cold eyes slowly faded away. This Jinglong is really annoying enough. A genius who is also in the same star area, but he wants to compete with him. Does he have to be punched to death by him to feel comfortable? Liu Sheng shook his head, put aside this matter that affected his mood, and called his family members to continue to the box. The food at Hunter Restaurant may not be the best, but it must be the freshest. Before Liu Sheng came to Hunter Restaurant, he didn't understand the meaning of this comment. Now he understood it, and it was an eye-opener. These are the dishes you ordered. After ordering, the waiter checked the menu with Liu Sheng and the others. After the alignment, the greeter brought up a large box. Then the waiter in charge of serving food reached into the box with one hand, grabbed a lively soup bowl, and brought it up with a knife. Puchi! The soup bowl stopped moving, and within a few breaths it turned into a steaming bowl of soup full of fragrance. Everyone at the table was stunned. Liu Sheng was also stunned. 540 turned out to be such a novel method. Fresh butchered food. Immediately afterwards, Liu Sheng and others watched the waiter butcher one after another of delicacies on the spot and put them on the table. In just a few minutes, all the dozens of dishes they ordered were served. This speed of serving food can be called the first in the universe. Good guy, good guy. Liu Dahai and Zheng Yufen were completely paralyzed, clutching their chopsticks, not knowing whether to do it or not. The couple have never seen such a strange Liu Li in several lifetimes. The same goes for Liu Qinghe. Her beautiful eyes widened, she covered her mouth with her hand, and didn't react for a long time. When he reacted, there was a miserable howl. I forgot to take a video and send it to Moments. Liu Sheng ignored her and greeted everyone to eat. Needless to say, the same dishes in the Hunter restaurant are more delicious than those made by any cooking robot outside. This should be regarded as a natural delicacy. Liu Sheng commented. While eating, Liu Sheng searched for Jinglong's information on Xing Wang. Jinglong, orphan of battlefield star. Well. Liu Sheng was taken aback when he read the first line. Is this guy really motherless? He asked Jinglong before if he had no mother, but he did not expect that he really had no mother. Not only does he have no mother, but he also has no relatives, friends, wife, or children. Xiren has lived alone for more than 900 years, and he is not good at communication. Apart from penance, his usual hobby is food. No wonder. After reading Jinglong's introduction, Liu Sheng suddenly understood the other party's repeated rudeness. To put it bluntly, this guy is a starry sky ascetic with a withdrawn personality and extremely low EQ. So when we met twice, no matter who was by his side or what occasion, this guy would come up to discuss with himself. But understanding is understanding. Next time I dare to do this, I still have to pinch his shit out. Liu Sheng thought to himself. After a meal, it's time to pay the bill. The waiter at the Hunter restaurant suddenly came over and said respectfully, someone has paid for several distinguished guests. Who? Master Jinglong. Jinglong. Liu Sheng blinked his eyes, looking a little surprised. Does that mean, apologizing to yourself? In that case. Liu Sheng thought about it, beat him next time, be gentler. The Interstellar Martial Arts Genius Exchange Contest preliminary and rematch lasted for 8 full cosmic days. Rao is like this, after more than a dozen rounds of screening, the geniuses who are eligible to survive. There are more than 40,000 more. Among the more than 40,000 people, only 16 people could stand out and enter the finals. Pick one out of thousands. And each of these thousands of people is not an ordinary person. They are all geniuses who have gone through layers of cruel elimination and screening. And in this, Acti, stage, the seed players selected by each of the 12-star districts will also enter the arena. The game suddenly entered the climax stage. Brother, oil. In the cabin of the White Hole Shuttler spacecraft, Liu Qinghe held up a device that looked like an electronic eye to cheer up Liu Sheng. I specially bought the most advanced camera equipment, and I promise to capture all of your heroic appearance without missing a beat. The spacecraft will transmit the video signal back to the Azure Star, and broadcast it in real time throughout the Azure Star. Be sure to take the first place, bro. You are not fighting alone, the entire Azure Star is with you. Got it, it's true. Liu Sheng smiled and rubbed Liu Qinghe's head. Liu Dahai also patted Liu Sheng on the shoulder, encouraging him, son, Dad believes in you, work hard and get the first place. As he said that, he said with emotion, I think I drove you to take the college entrance examination back then, but I never thought that in the blink of an eye, you would have walked into the starry sky. My old Lu family is really, hey. Zheng Yufen told him with a worried face, don't be brave, if you can't beat it, just admit defeat, don't get hurt. Listening to his parents' instructions, Lu Sheng had a complicated expression, and suddenly regretted bringing his parents to watch the game. Let them add a little bit of worry. Dong Qingxiu's expression was calm, she just hugged Lu Sheng lightly, without saying a word, but it seemed that she had said everything. In the end, it was Lin Zhenjiu and several Azure Star martial saints. Lin Zhenjiu and the others all looked excited, not knowing what to say. Azure Star is just a first-class resource star, not even a speck of dust in the cosmic starry sky. And it was on this dust that an earth-shattering and unprecedented person like Lu Sheng was born. It is about to enter the arena to compete with the geniuses of all races in the starry sky. As the natives of Azure Star, how can they not be excited, or proud? Lu Sheng nodded with Lin Zhenjiu and the others, then strode out of the cabin. As soon as he stepped out of the spaceship, the communicator sounded a signal, which came from Speaker Dunlop. Are you ready, Lu Sheng? It was also a pre-match comfort. President, don't worry. Lu Sheng nodded at Dunlop, looked up at the starry sky in front of him, and said calmly, as you wish, this will be a battle of showing off your might. Dunlop's eyes flickered, and then a smile appeared on his face, and he nodded. That's good. Oh yes, I also arranged for an old acquaintance of yours to be your assistant, you will be satisfied. Old acquaintance? Lu Sheng was taken aback. Soon, he knew who the old acquaintance Lupu mentioned was. When Lu Sheng walked to the waiting area, he saw a tall and handsome middle-aged man waving at him with a smile on his face. Lu Sheng, this way. It turned out that it was Far. 497 The strong are reborn, the mighty are reincarnated, the semi-finals begin. 1. Lu Sheng and Far also haven't seen each other for half a year. As your own guide into the starry sky, Lu Sheng still has some gratitude to Far. Of course, compared to Lu Sheng's gratitude to Far, Far's gratitude to Lu Sheng is much greater. Far is experiencing the most glorious moment of his life. It has already entered the list of candidates for the next Star District Law Enforcement Chief, and the 12th level training plan is also in progress. Even the title of knighthood has been raised to a higher level. Fall told Lu Sheng about his recent situation with emotion. Listening to Far's narration, Lu Sheng saw the triumphant expression on his brows, and couldn't help thinking of Lan Chen, the leader of Azure Star back then. Strictly speaking, Lan Chen is his first guide in the starry sky. It's a pity that Lan Chen got halfway. People are gone. I don't know how Lan Chen is doing now. Lu Sheng thought. At the same time, on one of the more than 1,000 spectator planets around the starry sky arena, a handsome young man was sitting on a cool aircraft, and everyone around him cast envious eyes on him. But the handsome young man looked gloomy, looking at the bustling starry sky in front of him, holding a bottle of wine and pouring it into his mouth from time to time. A grey-haired man came out of the aircraft, sat next to him, patted him on the shoulder, and comforted him, think about it, brother. At least, you got the latest aircraft you dreamed of, and it was personally delivered by the Sub-Jupiter Federation. I don't know how many people envy you. The handsome young man crushed the wine bottle in his hand with a click, inserted both hands into his hair, grabbed his scalp, and said in pain, Zhao Lin, I could have gotten more, which is twice as meaningful as it is now. I know. The grey-haired man patted the back of the handsome young man, and comforted him, don't cry, dad hugs. Roll. Let me tell you about the rules of the semi-finals. After some pleasantries, Far got serious and began to perform his duties as an assistant to Lu Sheng. The semi-finals are mainly divided into 5 rounds. The first 3 rounds are 10-1 knockout rounds, and the last 2 rounds are one-on-one battles. 10 people fighting. Liu Sheng was a little surprised. The preliminaries and semi-finals were all one-on-one. Why did the semi-finals start a 10-man melee? Far said helplessly, it is precisely because the rematch of the preliminary round adopts a one-on-one 2-player mode, which took too long and received too many complaints from people, that the organizer decided to temporarily change the competition system. After all, this is the first time that this kind of super large-scale interstellar competition with more than a dozen star regions has been held, and it is normal that many aspects are not considered carefully. All right. Liu Sheng nodded, you continue. Far continued, although the method of drawing lots is used to determine the competition venue, you know that in order to ensure the excitement of the competition, the seeded players of the major star regions will basically not meet each other in the first 3 rounds of the 10 promotions and 1 competition system. Don't worry about that. Liu Sheng knew it well, but he didn't really care. Currently, more than 20% of the contestants who have passed the preliminaries and rematch are martial arts first-level experts. So much. Liu Sheng was taken aback. There are nearly 10,000 11th-level powerhouses under the age of 1,000. Even if it is the sum of 12 star regions, this number is too exaggerated. Think about it, these are still here to participate in the competition, and there are still those who have not participated in the competition. Then there are those over 1,000 years old. Calculating carefully, the sum of all 11th-level powerhouses in the 12-star districts may easily exceed 100,000. Is there any grade 12? Liu Sheng asked. Fall hesitated for a moment, nodded and said, yes, but they are all suspected, so we can't be sure. One is a number 1 seed player in the Hill Star district, Ice Demon Monroe, with a sun-level extraordinary life physique. 300 years ago, he was at the peak of the 11th level. He is a well-known enchanting genius in the Hill Star district. Later, he retreated to the 12th level, and this time he came out to participate in the competition, and many people rumored that he had already been promoted to the 12th level. Another one is Qian Yushu from the Zilan Star district, who is more than 300 years old this year. The first name, Liu Sheng, had already been heard, and he didn't find it strange. The latter was curious. Qian Yushu, this name is rather strange. This person's situation is a bit special. The expression on Far's face became weird, and he said, it is said that this person is the reincarnation of a strong man from another civilization, from another star field, the universe. When he was 50 years old, he was just an ordinary person, and his martial arts strength didn't even reach the 3rd level. As a result, it took less than 200 years in total to be promoted to the 11th level, maybe even the 12th level. What? When Liu Sheng heard Far's explanation, he was taken aback on the spot. A word popped out of my mind instantly, the rebirth of mighty power. Judging from the life trajectory of Qian Yushu, isn't it the proper rebirth of the strong and the reincarnation template in the fantasy novels of the previous life? This is really, the starry sky is so big, there are everyone. 0. Ask for flowers. Liu Sheng was stunned for a long time, and then said these words slowly. To be honest, he is also a time traveler, and he was born again. But compared with this 1,000-feather book, it is far worse. Help me focus on this person. Liu Sheng said to Far. Far nodded, if you don't say it, I will focus on it. In fact, there are quite a few people who are interested in him. This guy is so mysterious that he has even attracted the attention of the people on the other side of the galaxy. I don't know why this time, I will jump out to participate in this competition. Maybe it's also for resource rewards. The two were chatting. At this time, the identity card in Liu Sheng's hand suddenly lit up with a light. It's not just him, the identity card of every contestant in the waiting area is the same. Tens of thousands of rays of light lit up in the starry sky, and the dots of stars were truly beautiful. 0. But all the contestants looked slightly upright, everyone knew that this was the draw for the semi-finals has begun. Sheng checked the information he had just received on his ID card. Stadium No WW4985. Sheng raised his head to look for the field W4985, and Far began to quickly operate on the optical computer in his hand as soon as Sheng received the information. When Sheng found his own playing field, Far just got the result. I found all the list information of the players assigned to the same arena as you. Far looked at the information in his hand, and said in a low voice with an ugly expression, "There are 3 11th level students, this is troublesome." Sheng's expression was normal, and he was about to fly towards the field. Far was taken aback, and subconsciously said, "Sheng, don't you want to read their information?" "No need. The battle glasses, put on the battle glasses." Far took out a pair of translucent glasses and hurriedly brought them up. Sheng shook his head and said nothing more. In a flash, he disappeared in front of Far. When it reappeared, it was already on a meteorite alloy ring in the distance. Far raised a hand holding the combat glasses, looked at Sheng's back, and was stunned for a moment, not knowing what to say. Harmful. After a while, he sighed heavily, put away his glasses, and continued to study the information in front of him. A trace of worry gradually appeared on his face. 3 11th grade. How did the organizing committee divide the groups? I don't know if Sheng only has 10 levels? What should I do if I am targeted? Harm, all. 498. Do you want to verify immortality? Then, as you wish. 2. The first round of the semi-finals begins, and all contestants enter the arena. There are 1,500 spectator stars, and countless spaceships and aircraft surrounding it. The audience above were all excited. Compared with the rematch of the preliminaries, the audience in the semi-finals was a little larger. Mainly those players who were dismissed in the rematch of the preliminaries are now sitting in the spectator seats one by one. The first round of the semi-finals of this interstellar martial arts genius exchange competition will begin soon. What will be presented before you will be an unprecedented battle of geniuses. In this round of competition, all major seed players from the 12-star districts will also enter the arena. Which one do you like more? The host of the competition, that handsome young man, stood on the edge of the arena, explaining loudly with passion. Countless spaceships circled and danced above his head, pulling out long tail flames and blooming gorgeous fireworks to add to the fun. And the atmosphere of this starry sky was completely ignited by it. Sheng stood on a ring with a diameter of 257, which was about tens of kilometers. The outside of the arena is made of meteorites, but the inside is a skeleton of super-strength alloy, which can theoretically withstand the attacks of 11th level powerhouses. 9 people stood scattered in front of Sheng. These 9 people have different appearances, but they all wear quite high-end combat uniforms, and wear combat glasses of similar styles on their faces. Compared with them, Sheng, who didn't wear combat glasses, seemed out of place. Of course, even without this difference, Sheng must have received the most attention. Because he is immortal. When I first saw the results of the grouping, I thought it was the same name, but I didn't expect it to be this one. A man more than 3 meters tall, majestic, and super bare, with a boxy head stared at Sheng for a while, and couldn't help but sigh. A thin little man next to him also interjected, "Yeah, I was shocked. No kidding, I still can't believe that I'm really going to compete with this one." Same. The 9 people in the arena chatted in a hurry. The eyes of the 9 people were all focused on Sheng, with novelty, joy, surprise, and other complex emotions in their eyes. It's a bit like ordinary people seeing TV stars in reality, and it's a bit like watching some rare animals in a zoo. Sheng didn't know what to say, so he looked to the side. Many battles in the arena had already begun, but on his side, the crowd seemed to have not even begun to prepare for fighting. After entering the semi-finals, the referee responsible for judging the competition was also replaced from the original artificial intelligence to a real person. The referee is an ordinary-looking middle-aged man with an 11th level strength. He looked at the time and couldn't help urging, "When are you guys going to chat, or do you want to fight?" The burly man who initiated the topic hurriedly said, "Fight, fight." Just about to tell other people to stop chatting, he suddenly raised his head, pointed at the top of his head with bright eyes and said loudly, "Hey, we are on TV." Everyone looked up. Sure enough, at this time, the biggest virtual screen in the starry sky showed the scene of their competition arena. The host of the competition, who was stepping on a flying skateboard, did not know when he came to the side of the competition field. Strange, why hasn't the competition started yet in this arena? God! Let's see who this one is. The first super genius with an extraordinary life physique to reach the immortal level in the 12-star regions for millions of years, from the sub-Jupiter star region. Holy! The host of the game called out Liu Sheng's name with extremely exaggerated expressions, tone, and body movements. In an instant, hundreds of cameras were all aimed at Liu Sheng. The majestic figure belonging to Liu Sheng was magnified and presented on the big screen in the starry sky. "Brother! It's my brother! My brother is on TV!" On the White Hole shuttle spacecraft, Liu Qinghe jumped up excitedly, keeping his hands on the ground, and quickly took pictures with his own photography equipment. Liu Haihei, Zheng Yufen, and a group of martial saints from Azure Star were also a little excited. They walked closer and stood in front of the screen in the cockpit of the spacecraft to watch. On a certain spectator star, Lan Chen, who was depressed, also stopped what he was doing, and he and Zhao Lin stared blankly at the familiar yet unfamiliar face on the big screen. The highest chairman star of the competition, a dozen big figures from all major star regions also saw this scene. Some people cast envious glances at Dunlop, who was sitting in the host's seat. Dunlop, the chief of law enforcement, the chief of frontline and others smiled and did not speak, just quietly watching Liu Sheng on the big screen. It was as if they were appreciating a unique treasure in the universe that belonged exclusively to their sub-Jupiter region. Immortal level. What kind of incredible power should the extraordinary life physique of the immortal level possess? I believe everyone must be very curious. Let's see Liu Sheng's opponents. The host of the competition glanced at the information in his hand, and said with an exaggerated expression, "Wow, there are 3 11th level contestants, and 6 outstanding players in the 10th level. And our Liu Sheng is only level 10, can he withstand the attack of such a group of powerful opponents? Will he be able to enter the next round of competition smoothly? How powerful is the immortal class? Let us focus on this battle and wait and see." Damn it! In the waiting area, Far, who is Liu Sheng's assistant, cursed in a low voice. Where did the people from the propaganda department find such a stick? Isn't this a scam? This round of 10-to-1 competition system is intended to be a melee between 10 people, and then select a winner who stands at the end. Since it is a melee, it means that everyone has no clear opponent during the battle, and it doesn't matter how they want to fight or who they fight. However, the words of the host of the competition directly pushed Sheng to the opposite of everyone else. Regardless of Liu Sheng's original tactics, strategies, and ideas. Now they have to bite the bullet and play a 1v9 match. Otherwise, under the watchful eye. Even if he wins, the aura belonging to the owner of the immortal bloodline will be much dimmer. What a fool! Even Far, who is always gentle, couldn't help but swear. Of course Far was not the only one who could see this, but no one cared about it except for everyone in the White Hole shuttle. They don't care whether it's fair or not, they just want to enjoy watching it, and they just want to see the glory of the legendary immortal bloodline. Not to mention that Liu Sheng is only 1-9 now, even if it is 1-100, they are extremely happy. Many people's emotions were ignited, like beasts in heat, they stood up from their seats and howled. The enthusiasm of the starry sky atmosphere was suddenly pushed to a new climax. And at this time, on the ring, They seem to want us to besiege this one together. The burly man with a height of more than 3 meters looked at both sides and said. It doesn't matter to me. One of them stood up, stretched his body, stared at Liu Sheng in front of him with glowing eyes, licked his lips lightly, and said in a low voice, 0.0 To be honest, I'm really curious too. How strong is it? I heard that killing superhuman physiques is like eating and drinking. If you are immortal. The other person released the mighty power of an 11th level powerhouse, and said with a smile, we have 3 11th levels and 6 10th levels, so it's not too much to bully the few. Really? Under the attention of all the people, the 9 people quickly reached a consensus, forming a faint encirclement circle, and Liu Sheng surrounded his ministers. Feeling the unified hostility from the 9 people, the noisy and warm atmosphere of the surrounding starry sky. Liu Sheng raised his head slightly. Do you want to verify immortality? He whispered to himself, and then took a step forward calmly. Then, as you wish. Next second. Boom. A condensed, terrifying aura that was almost visible to the naked eye erupted from Liu Sheng's body. Soaring upwards, like a dragon swimming in the starry sky. 499 This is the most likely time in your life to defeat me, take advantage of it. 3. The unparalleled terrifying aura was released from Liu Sheng's body instantly. It directly crushed the void around him. Countless shattered black ons burst out. From the perspective of others, it is a large shadow that is visible to the naked eye and spreads wildly from behind Liu Sheng to the surroundings. It was also from the moment Liu Sheng took a step forward. The 9 people in front of him, the battle glasses on their faces, all made rapid diddy sounds. The faces of the 9 people changed drastically. Before he had time to react, he saw a value jumping wildly in his field of vision. Soon a certain critical value is exceeded. Boom! The battle glasses on the face of a handsome and slender young man suddenly burst, blasting a mass of destruction area. Then the second, third, fourth. Boom! Boom! Bang bang! The battle glasses worn on the faces of the 9 people exploded one by one, releasing small sparks. The sparks weren't strong enough to damage them. But it illuminated faces full of astonishment and bewilderment. Especially the 3-meter-high, strong man who looks like a giant bear. Stretching out his hands in a daze, to catch the broken parts that fell from the bridge of the nose, his black and square face was full of shock and disbelief. This 02 How is this possible? The combat power detection limit of my pair of glasses is as high as 100. As the fighting glasses exploded on the faces of the 9 people one after another, the noise of the starry sky around them also fell silent. Even the handsome young man in charge of hosting the competition was stunned, holding the microphone in his hand for a long time without uttering a word. Liu Sheng walked towards the center of the ring step by step, with 80,000 immortal cells burning in his body. Just a little momentum released is enough to crush the void and crush the light. The endless shadows are still spreading rapidly around him, centered on him. At this moment, Liu Sheng is like a black hole, like a demon king. The 9 people who were Liu Sheng's opponents retreated step by step. At this time, let alone attacking Liu Sheng, they almost lost their courage to stand in front of Liu Sheng. And Liu Sheng didn't see them at all. Liu Sheng walked through the void and walked to the top of the 9 people step by step. Then he lowered his head, facing the huge competition arena below, and suddenly left the room. 80,000 immortals are roaring. The burst of this punch is indescribable, like the brilliance of a comet passing through the starry sky. 9 people standing on the ring, including the referee. The 10 people all changed their colors and fled to the side subconsciously. Boom! A punch fell. The void is broken one after another, black turns white, white turns black. The white and black fine starbursts are intertwined, forming an incomparably terrifying impact. With a strong breath of disillusionment, he directly exploded the huge competition arena. Boom! The competition arena with a diameter of tens of kilometers exploded, and the meteorite on the surface exploded, exposing the super-strength alloy skeleton inside. And the alloy skeleton didn't last long. Soon twisted, melted, shattered. Sheng punched out, and there was no obstacle under his feet. There is only a shattered void, and there are stones and alloy debris flying around. The power of one punch is so terrifying. The 9 people who had stood on the competition arena before saw this scene almost protruding from their eye sockets. His expression was horrified, mixed with a trace of fear. It is impossible to imagine what kind of fate they would have faced if they faced this punch directly. The power of Sheng's punch was faithfully captured by hundreds of cameras and perfectly displayed on the big screen in the starry sky. The huge movement and power aftermath caused the surrounding competition field to stop and freeze. Everyone was fixedly looking at the completely destroyed arena, as well as Sheng standing in the void with endless shadows behind him. For a moment, I almost forgot words. After Sheng finished all these, he slowly retracted his fist. He scanned everything around him with a posture as if he was in the world. His eyes swept over the contestants in the competition arena, the spaceships and aircrafts, and the audience on the stars watching the battle. The wave of consciousness spread out, and he calmly said, "This is the most likely time in your life to defeat me. So, please try as hard as you can." With the spread of this wave of consciousness fluctuations, the hustle and bustle of the huge starry sky arena disappeared. Suddenly fell into a second of absolute silence. Then, boom! Totally blown up. Countless people stood up from their seats, staring blankly at the demon-like figure on the big screen in the starry sky. I don't know what words to use to express my inner feelings at this moment. I just feel dry and hot all over my body, flesh and blood, cells, are infected by an inexplicable emotion, and I can't help but want to cry out. Immortality! This is immortality! This is the king-like attitude represented by the immortal bloodline. Sheng's overbearing, powerful, terrifying. It almost perfectly interprets their fantasy and longing for the immortal bloodline. What martial arts realm is only 10th level, what has not yet grown up, what accumulation is insufficient? All are farts. This is the immortality, the extraordinary life physique of the immortal level. Break the rules and shatter common sense. Unique for millions of years. I am the strongest. Inside the white hole shuttle, King He, who was holding a camera in his hand, was trembling slightly. The excitement on her face was almost overflowing, and her eyes were full of little stars. "Brother, you are so handsome." Fry. Liu Haihei and Zheng Yufen were also very surprised. Looking at the unique figure in the starry sky, it was like the first time in their lives that they really realized how special their son is, outstanding, unparalleled in the world. Dong Qingxiu was quite quiet, she just stared at Sheng intently, her beautiful eyes shining brightly. Lin Zhenjiu and other celestial star martial saints also had blood boiling all over their bodies, wishing they could rush out now and announce to the entire universe. Sheng is the proud son of heaven who came out of their blue star. Lan Chen and Zhao Lin stared blankly at the figure on the big screen in the starry sky on a certain aircraft of the star-watching star, and recognized the gods. Suddenly regaining consciousness, Lan Chen lowered his head in annoyance, with a pained expression, beating his chest and stamping his feet. 937 Zhao Lin patted him on the shoulder, sighed softly, and couldn't say any words of comfort. In the waiting area, Far also froze in place at the moment, and then a strong light shot out from his eyes, and his lips were trembling with excitement. He only now realizes how ridiculous his previous worries were. Immortal level! This is the immortal level, this is the immortal level! The host of the conference screamed wildly with the microphone like a chicken blood. The emotions of the people in the spectator seats of the entire Starry Sky Stadium were aroused by him. Many people stood up from their positions and shouted the name of Sheng and immortality. But none of the uproar seems to have anything to do with Sheng. After saying that, Liu Sheng left the stage with a calm face. Since Dunlop wants to show off his power once, then he will show him off. Since everyone wants to watch hardy battles, he will completely detonate everyone's adrenal glands. As Liu Sheng said. Now he is only 10th grade, and he is only in his early 20s this year. This interstellar martial arts talent exchange contest is indeed. These so-called stars, geniuses, evildoers, strong people. The most likely chance to beat him. Liu Sheng's mental power sensed that there were several unruly and outstanding consciousnesses locked on him from afar in the starry sky arena, and the fighting spirit was ignited in the four corners of the starry sky. He didn't care, and he didn't want to know who these fighting intentions came from. He took the water offered by far with a somewhat fanatical expression in reverence, unscrewed it and took a sip, thinking lightly in his heart. Seize the opportunity and don't let me down. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. 500. Even though she was scared to death, she still pretended to want to fight me. 4. After Liu Sheng announced his entry with a kingly attitude. Boom! The huge competition arena covered by a thick layer of ice was torn apart in space. It can be clearly seen from the crack that the super-strength alloy skeleton in the center of the meteorite ring, which is said to be able to withstand the full attack of the 11th level powerhouse, was also frozen and cracked. 9 ice sculptures floated in space together with the arena. The referee on the sidelines was stunned for a while, and then announced loudly, "Hill Star District, Monroe wins." Then quickly greeted the emergency personnel, "Hurry up, drag down and rescue." The blue figure standing in the void turned a deaf ear to all of this. This is a majestic body covered in a dense cold air and countless tiny blue stars. The figure's eyes passed through the barriers of the void, and precisely landed on a young man sitting in the waiting area drinking water. The blue light flickered in his eyes, and he twitched the corners of his mouth, as if he was smiling. Immortal level. I can't wait. Somewhere in the competition arena, there was a young man with long hair and ordinary facial features. Stretching out a finger, the fingertips shot out a gorgeous golden sword light, directly dividing the huge competition arena into two. The 9 opponents in the arena looked terrified, and they retreated crazily one by one, hurriedly admitting defeat. The young man's expression was as usual, and he didn't seem to be surprised by such a result. He walked lightly to the field. When he was about to leave the field, he paused under his feet and glanced in a certain direction. But he quickly shook his head and walked on without saying a word. In the waiting area, a woman with fiery red hair was clenching her fists and staring at the other side of the cold field with a frantic expression. Blue flames were burning all over her body. The color of the flame seems to be changing from blue to purple. The woman's fighting spirit was blazing, and the whole body exuded a surging heat wave, so that the contestants sitting near her scattered in all directions with horror on their faces, leaving her far away. Immortality, I will personally witness immortality, so as to sharpen my own glory. Liu Sheng continued to conduct the competition step by step. The second and third rounds of the semifinals. Spend peacefully. Every time Liu Sheng played, it only took a few minutes to end the battle. With his current strength, the 11th level of the general level is like far. He couldn't even bear a punch at all. How can the entire competition process be described as a crushing blow? For Liu Sheng, the 2 rounds of competition were uneventful. The only thing that annoys him is the host of the contest. As if staring at him specifically, every time he is on stage, all the cameras are aimed at him. Then the whole person was like being injected with chicken blood, croaking non-stop. Liu Sheng couldn't help but wanted to punch him on the forehead several times, but he forcibly held back. The 3 rounds of selection in the semi-finals have been completed. Only the last 40 or so players remained. Almost all of these 40 people are powerhouses above the 11th level. Liu Sheng is the one with the lowest level, but after 3 rounds of competition, his strength has long been recognized by everyone. The name of immortality resounded throughout the starry sky, and no one dared to underestimate him anymore. Even predicting the probability of Liu Sheng winning the championship, it suddenly rose to the first place, surpassing the original number 1 favorite Monroe. Then it's a one-on-one matchup. The following competitions will also be conducted individually one by one. Everyone has enough time and opportunity to understand the strength of other opponents. Far quickly explained to Liu Sheng the upcoming game. Soon, the draw for the 4th round of the semi-finals began. Liu Sheng's ID card flashed once, which means the lottery is over. He checked the lottery results at random, but when he saw the name of his opponent, he was taken aback for a moment. Jinglong. The match between Liu Sheng and Jinglong happened to be scheduled for the first match of the 4th round of the semi-finals. After the lottery results came out, the competition began to prepare and warm up intensively. The new competition arena was pushed into the starry sky. It was an asteroid with a diameter of thousands of kilometers in a hemispherical shape after simple cutting. The cameras that were previously scattered in every corner of the competition field also gathered near the competition arena. The gathering of hundreds of millions of eyes can be regarded as the real attention of the public. Oh! Is the first match of the 4th round of the semi-finals so interesting? It turned out to be a civil war for geniuses in the sub-Jupiter region. Liu Sheng endured the nervous and noisy commentary of the host of the competition, and stepped onto the asteroid competition ring. Jinglong's movements were faster than his, and she was already waiting for him on the ring. Jinglong held an alloy long knife in each hand, his eyes were burning, and his whole body was filled with unparalleled fighting spirit and confidence. Staring at Liu Sheng, he said word by word. This time, you have no excuse to hide. Liu Sheng. As he spoke, he slowly raised the 2 knives in his hands, as if grasping 2 sharp crescent moons. Liu Sheng, however, looked at Jinglong carefully from top to bottom. Then he said with a strange face, "Aren't you tired of pretending like this?" Jinglong, who was full of fighting spirit, was stunned, and frowned. "What are you talking about?" I said. Liu Sheng looked at Jinglong, and said with a complicated expression, "You are obviously scared to death, but you still pretend to want to fight me. Isn't it really tiring to deceive yourself like this?" The expression on Jinglong's face was frozen, and the fighting spirit on his body was also evident. But he quickly replied and made a sneering sound. "Ha ha ha, I'm afraid of you." Jinglong stuck the 2 knives in his hand on the ground, covered his stomach and laughed. "Yes, I am afraid of you. I'm afraid that you won't be able to carry me a few times, and I'm afraid that you will lose face in front of your parents and relatives. Ha 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 ha." Smiling and laughing, Jinglong couldn't stop laughing. Because Liu Sheng kept looking at him expressionlessly, as if he was watching a poorly acted clown perform. "Are you really afraid of? Only you know best in your heart. Bastard! When has I ever been afraid of you? I have been looking forward to this battle with you." Ah! Jinglong grabbed the 2 knives in his hand suddenly, turned into a streamer, and slashed towards Liu Sheng quickly. The 2 knives turned into 2 gorgeous arcs in his hands. Cut through the first layer of void, and then the second layer. Black and white starbursts burst into Liu Sheng like shooting stars. Liu Sheng watched all this quietly. When those 2 arcs were about to approach, he punches abruptly. Boom! The void was reduced to rags under this punch, revealing the red steam of black, white, and black underneath. This punch just happened to block the trajectory of the splendid arc. The 2 collide. It was as if a car driving at high speed hit the wall of Wanren Mountain. Boom! The 2 arcs of light shattered quietly without making a sound. Then a figure suddenly stopped, frozen frame. From extreme motion to extreme stillness. Jinglong abruptly stopped her steps and stared blankly at her eyes. In the constricted eyes of his pupils, Niuzea Hao, a white and powerful fist appeared. This fist contains indescribably terrifying power, all of which are compressed into one point. This point crazily collapsed into the void, sunken. It presents 3 colors of black, white, and black intertwined and changing, and there is an extremely strong sense of disillusionment. Pa-ta! The sound of cold weapons falling to the ground. Jinglong suddenly came back to his senses, and subconsciously wanted to pick up the double knives on the ground. The hand stretched out halfway, but it was frozen and retracted. Embarrassment, panic, embarrassment, nervous, expressions changed on his face, and finally he was powerless to lower his head, and said with difficulty, "I lost." The fist that contained infinite terror was withdrawn calmly. The 3 layers of cracks in the void were quietly smoothed out. Sheng stretched out his hand and patted Jinglong's shoulder lightly, leaned close to Jinglong's ear, and whispered in a voice that only the 2 of them could hear, "Next time when you push hard, pay attention to controlling your leg muscles and heart rate. End, the meal you gave our family to eat earlier. This time it's your return." After finishing speaking, Sheng turned around and went off the court. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audio Wave to stay updated with our latest stories. And never miss out on a great listen.